All right.
All right. So, as far as like everybody on Twitter thinking that Dave Smith got destroyed by Douglas Murray, I just think, where was I going with that?
Do they really think that? I haven't really
No,
looked
it's
into the
like it's like
comments because I'm in my
50-50.
own echo chamber.
Right. No, no, no. It's like
That's
50,
wild.
it's like 50-50. And it's crazy because it's like well, it's not 50-50. It's definitely not 50-50, but they're so vocal and they do these campaigns where they're liking each other's tweets and stuff like that. I don't know. It's just great.
Yeah.
They just band together. But you can like tell they're like try harding it. But you could say that, but like everyone who watched it knows exactly what happened. I, I feel like you're gonna like the rates of like anti-Zionism, like the rates of people who are anti-Zionist, it's like over. It was like under 50% before, but now it's like over six. It's like 61% of U.S. adults are not pro-Zionism or something like that. They phrase the
Yeah.
question in some way like that, and it's like those rates are rising, and it's this is all your fault. And it's like I show you those tweets sometimes where they say this stuff about like the babies. I don't even like sending it because like the images are so messed up, and it makes you like
Yeah, man.
it's bad. And I saw one today that made me want to cry, honestly. But
Dude, I when I keep seeing that like they leveled Gaza, I don't know what leveled ever means. I never really have ever looked into it in the past when they say something like that.
uh huh,
And I saw some videos of like it's just flat out there. It's like, wow, what
right.
they weren't joking. It's everything's gone.
And Murray makes it seem so. He makes it seem so like nuanced. Like you really have to. And he pulls you into this game where not only are you not asking the question, why aren't you like you're not an expert? Like what? Are, like he frames it so perfectly. He's so good at this, but everyone's just used to it now. Well, everyone sees it. But what he was trying to do is basically frame it like all on Dave. It's all on Dave. Dave is the only person in the world. Dave and Daryl are the only people in the world who talk about shit on the internet, and people
Yeah.
take them seriously. It's like, how are they on trial for that? Douglas Murray himself is literally that. Like I remember people saying something like, "Has he ever been to like all Iran?" Because he was basically pro all of the Middle East wars. Has he ever been to like Afghanistan or something like that? Didn't he pose that question to him even? I think he actually asked him if
Uh
he had been to Afghanistan. Maybe not, but it's a good question. Like it's just and then Dave Smith's point. I don't know if he pointed it out on Twitter after the fact or during the debate, but he said just as many like people like if it was the case that going to the country or being on the scene is what gives you like the authority, the first hand
right.
count authority, then what about all the people who lied about what was going on in Afghanistan and Iraq? Like they
Yeah.
had been there on the ground, so why were we lied about weapons of mass destruction and all this stuff? So
Yeah.
it's just so it's crazy, and then it infuriates me that people are siding with him, or at least like a large vocal minority of people are. But then I realize it's just like they're in a different dimension. They don't see it. They're only gonna notice it when things get worse for their side, and they realize, oh, everyone hates us. Like you have to like meet people in the middle and stop talking down to them, like the way Murray was the entire time. It doesn't work on anybody. They forget this lesson so fast, like that kind of thing. That's like why Trump won
Yeah.
this time around. But anyway, I'm done ranting. I just wanted to get it out of my system.
No, I'm glad you did. I just have so many issues like if you like for
Wait one
example,
second.
when we
I'm
went
so sorry to
uh,
pause you, but my dog got into something. I'll be right back.
you're good, man. Take care of it.
Whenever he does stuff like that, the first thing I say is like, "Oh, I'm so glad I get to take your freedom away, like for an hour or two. It's so nice. It's like you done me the favor of now I can't trust you, and you deserve this. You're locked up." But sorry, I made you pause your point. Hopefully, you didn't forget.
No, man, you gave me a little bit of time to. I guess you really took away the excuse for me stumbling over my thoughts though, because I had more time to think about them. Um, I just feel like whenever I travel, the I have to really be deliberate about not going into like a touristy area, for example.
Mhm.
And so like if I go to like London or Spain or Italy and it's like, okay, well, they know where I'm gonna land, they know where I'm gonna stay, and I walk outside and I just get hit with tourist traps. And I don't become an expert on these areas just because I've been there. Does that
Mhm.
make sense? Like,
Yeah.
how long do you have to stay somewhere to become an expert? If like you came to Indiana, you're not gonna be an expert on Indiana. You're just gonna like be in a suburb. Or like when we lived in Maryland or lived in California, it's like, okay, well, I am kind of familiar with my local area, but I could live there for years and never go farther than 10 to 20 miles away from where I'm at and know nothing about the culture of the state or get involved in the government or anything like that. Like, how does that add to my understanding of an area more than actually like researching the history and understanding the current events and the political climate?
Mhm.
I just feel like it's way more valuable. So I guess that kind of leads into my other point is he starts off just blasting them for not having experts on. It's like, what makes you an expert? That's kind of my question to him. Like, at what point are you an expert?
All right.
I remember, have you ever, Tim Ferriss at all he did the 4 Hour Work Week?
Yeah, Tim Ferriss. Wait, are you talking about somebody from the military?
No, no, I'm sorry. He's a podcaster now. He wrote the book, The 4 Hour Work Week.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, I had no idea.
He, in his book, one of the things he does is like he gives you guidance on how to like kind of market yourself and make a brand. It's like people just say, I think it was him, but people say, "Oh, I can't do this. I'm not an expert, or people aren't going to take me seriously." And he's like, "Just establish yourself as an expert, learn a little bit about it, and then start like promoting it a little bit more, and try to get on like volunteer to give a presentation at your local school or something like that, and then you can get on like a local TV network, and now you have all these accolades just because you have a little bit of knowledge and you want to share it with somebody, and now you can be a quote unquote expert."
Yeah, the thing
And I just
is,
feel like so many people could do that, but Dave Smith or Scott Horton, like all these people, or Daryl Cooper, they have so many hours of just thinking about these one topic. How are they not experts? I think it's just because they have humility to not declare themselves an expert compared to somebody else who, I don't know, got the degree from the universities that were state funded and propagandized. I don't know. I'll shut up.
no, you're fine. You're fine. I think you made a good point, except for I think one assumption you're making is that his claim to like want I guess like want more experts out there or like have more experts talking about this stuff. I don't think that's actually. I think that to take his claim that that's what his goal is to get more experts talking about things to set the record straight a little bit is that's a facade because I think what he really wants is
Yeah.
to be able to get Dave Smith, who is essentially an expert, to call himself an expert. That way, he can
Right.
use semantic judo on him.
Right.
Like basically anything he slips up after that point, you could easily attack his credentials. It's such an easy attack vector at that point. It's like once you've
Yeah.
established that he's calling himself an expert, which was his goal, either you don't call yourself an expert and now you look foolish because you're like you're like some idiot American or whatever talking out of your ass,
Yeah.
some idiot comedian talking out of your ass, or if you do claim that you're an expert, then okay, now I get to scrutinize every last thing you say, and you better have primary sources and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
At that point, it's like you're under a microscope, and he's ready to use anything at his disposal, any kind of like debate tactic at his disposal against you. And it's not like it now. It doesn't look like him beating up on a normal guy. It looks like he's beating up on some idiot who called himself an expert. That's like his goal.
Yeah.
So I feel like Dave did a good job of just trying to like stay grounded and not fall for it and not say anything stupid and get tripped up. I think
Right.
people get mad at him for not saying enough, for not calling him out enough, but I think that if I were him, I wouldn't have had this amount of forethought, but I'm glad he did, to let Douglas just hang himself because everything he was
Yeah, for
saying
sure.
made him look like an idiot. And that's what that's kind of like I'm a little scatterbrained right now, but that's kind of like was back to my original point. I think their whole plan backfired. I think they have to rally
Yeah.
around him right now and pretend like he did a great job. But I think even the people who like him are saying, "Man, he came off like an asshole. He didn't really make any arguments."
Yeah, no, I I didn't have any idea what to expect. I didn't know much about him, and
Mm.
I after that I just don't really have any desire to get to know him better. And I think you were absolutely right because if Dave fell into that trap of calling him an expert, then he would have been able to do to Dave what he basically just did to himself.
Hmm.
He basically just said, "Hey, I'm the expert," and Dave was able to call him out at every single turn about being an expert on something, or having to talk about something when he's not an expert about it.
Exactly. And if Dave had, a lot of people wanted maybe like Andrew or somebody else, which Andrew might have done a good job. Andrew Watson. But I feel like Dave does a good job of staying calm and not being too offensive. I feel like
Yeah,
sometimes you have to just play defense and stick to your guns. Make the arguments you're going to make. Don't get emotional. Don't sink to his level. Because as soon as he sunk to his level of like credentialism or whatever, you're both in the mud
yeah,
at that point. I'm glad he stayed out of it. But
yep, for
and
sure. Well, I mean,
one last thing I wanted
yeah,
to bring up was Michael Malice. You know how I kind of have a love hate relationship with him because he's kind of like
yep,
he's friends with everybody on all sides. Like he's even friends with Megan McCain and he's friends with Dave Smith. And it's just like I'm like, man, how do you juggle all this stuff? Because your friends are talking about each other in a very brutal fashion online, basically calling each other evil online constantly. So
yeah.
it's crazy. So, but anyways, he did a reaction of some of the main clips today from the debate because Dave Smith was on it, and also Douglas Murray, who he was the last person that interviewed Douglas Murray before this quote
Oh,
unquote
okay.
debate thing. And so I really wanted to know his opinion, and he did it today. And the first part of it was just a setup of basically saying like, I think a lot of you didn't understand what the point that Douglas Murray was making, and we should watch that maybe at some point. But the things
Yeah,
he
man.
was, it's really
See if we can pull
long
it up.
though, so I don't know. It'd be kind of hard to find the exact part, but maybe I'll find it next time you're talking, and then I'll get it up for us. But essentially, he kind of it sounded like he was making a lot of padding for Douglas Murray because he felt like a lot of people misunderstood him, and I got his point. I think there is some nuance to the expertise point that he was making. I think he was saying he wasn't saying like trust the experts. Malice pointed out that he was saying trust people with expertise. I think is what he wasn't saying like
Yes.
he wasn't appealing. I think that's fair. Like you have to steelman the guy's argument. And I think maybe that's the point he was making. He's not saying like there's some organization that you have to appeal to. He's just saying I think it's fair to say having a bunch of idiots out there talking and spreading a bunch of shit, which is possible. And I think maybe sees Dave this way, but I've seen it where people who are on my side are out there debating, like Chank or somebody else, and I'm like, man, I wish you were not on my side. You're making me look foolish. So,
Right.
anyways,
Well, everything you're saying is right. I'm kind of stealing some of. I don't know if you watched or listened to Dave and Robbie comment on the debate, but Robbie basically said, first of all, he showed up and Dave was like, "Let's talk about the debate," and Robbie was just like, "And I wasn't even there. I don't even know if I'm allowed to comment on it." And and then,
yeah,
but he made a good point. Is just saying that if the way to handle that is to either acknowledge that hey, these aren't experts or they don't have the expertise. I like wording that a little bit better, but I don't know what the because then you don't have like this line where you become the expert, right? But
mm,
you say, hey, you don't have the expertise, then it should be easy for someone who does to demonstrate that. And he should have been able to do that instead of just attacking Dave. He should have been able to attack his arguments, and then I don't know. Then we wouldn't have had just this. Not, I don't think he made a single point the entire time. He almost tried to, and then he would just pivot as soon as Dave would respond to the point and say,
mm-hmm.
"No, here's why you're wrong, or here's why I don't think that makes sense, or that applies here." And then he would immediately just pivot to something else. He's like, "Oh yeah, good point. Let's talk about this thing that you weren't talking about." He's just strawman like half the time. It felt like.
Yeah. Can I show you this clip from here because this actually kind of backs up
Um,
your point?
yeah, please do that.
Are you watching?
Yeah,
All right. I'm gonna have to skip around to find it. I need audio for that, so I'll just play it.
You want to.
no, it's
But
fine.
first of all, I would just
I agree with Dave. I don't think they gave them a state. They gave them area, but even still, it was not at all analogous.
saying a power
He's talking about where he made the Murray did make some claims. He said that they had already tried giving them a state in 2005, which
Yeah,
whatever. We all know.
Palestinian state.
Yeah.
we all
Okay.
know.
So what's interesting about that is that this is not how this is not how any of the leaders Since
Douglas.
some stuff has gotten in, yes, that's true. Since
No, more than some stuff.
Okay.
More than some stuff.
Okay, I'll say this, right? Because there's been different levels of blockade even before 2000.
I think this would be a good time for an edit while I'm searching for something like this.
In, yes, that's true.
From in the future, I'll have these like time stamped. But
Oh yeah, that'd be a good idea.
to the me that's actually editing this, make sure you take this shit out.
Well,
Like,
while you're doing that,
Mhm.
this is I think the first time I've ever listened to Michael Malice at regular speed, and he sounds like a normal person. And I just in my mind he sounds like this high pitched squeaky whiner,
He is kind of high pitched.
and it's just because well, I just mean like he's definitely not compared
yeah.
to how I've only ever
Right.
I've never listened to him at regular speed, and I just realized that.
Yeah.
Dave wouldn't deny that either. I don't know why he went at it in such a
Here we go.
I've never agree with you.
Yeah, but
so
if
I don't
you're
know
going
what
to
the
spend a year and a half talking about a place, you should at least do the courtesy of visiting it.
Yeah, I don't agree with Douglas in how he said it. And I think if he said it like
This was a really good thing that I felt like I'm glad Michael is as impartial as he is here in saying this, because he really gave Murray the benefit of the doubt without having watched most of the debate, only having seen a little bit of the beginning and feeling like most people
Yeah.
were misunderstanding his expert point. I'm glad that at this point here, when he finally saw this kind of debate tactic, that he called it out. I'm like, okay. Because I was worried that he had already seen the entire thing and felt like Murray was being
Yeah.
fair, and I was like, man, this might be the final straw for Malice. There's been some straws, but this might be the final straw. But
what do you call it?
No, I'm glad you pointed that out because I was worried about the same thing.
yeah, I couldn't
Sorry,
wait to show
you
you
play.
this. Yeah, no problem.
Like I had said earlier, if it's like, hey, it would you would be more informed. That's Dave wouldn't deny that either. I don't know why he went at it in such a aggressive way.
all right. I just think this is a non-argument.
You don't
but
think?
okay.
At that point, I'm like, man, Dave Smith is me. That's what I would have said. That's exactly what I would have said. I would have said,
Yeah.
okay, this is. I get to that point too. I'm like, okay, all right, what do you want me to admit? Like, how can we get past this fucking stump? Are we just gonna sit here all day?
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're right, whatever. It's that
Well, it's
point of
exactly.
exasperation.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, it's exactly what he said. It's a non-argument. So how are you responding to that? And he kind of did it the whole time. I don't know how Dave responded to so many things that he said, because so many things that he said weren't arguments. They were just like trying to discredit him, or not even him. Half the time it was other people, or like strawmanning him. He's arguing against like other people who are maybe anti-Israel or something. But I don't think Dave would consider himself anti-Israel. I think he's just anti what's happening right now.
Exactly. And that's the problem with so many of these debates. Like, maybe Dave is wrong. Maybe he, the World Bank probably isn't doing the best audit ever. It might not be perfectly correct. But
Right.
at least get on his level. At least, like, don't argue with him like he's somebody who's, like, pro-Hamas, explicitly pro-Hamas, on, like,
Exactly.
school campuses or something. That's not him. So, like, what's the point? Like, I hate that. I'm like, man, you got me all hyped up for this debate over that. And this is just another one of those, man. I was really disappointed by this debate, man. I was really hoping that this would be the debate I could, like, refer to in the future if I ever need to, like, think about this stuff. But, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say, I feel like in any of these arguments, it just seems like there's unreasonable people who are just completely one-sided. Israel's 100% in the right, or God or Hamas is 100% in the right, or maybe not even that, but that's how the argument seems to go. Like, yes, they need to be attacking Israel. Yes, Israel should be attacking them. And then you've got people in the middle who just say, hey, maybe Israel should, like, they focus it on Israel because Israel's in charge right now. There's no denying that. It's like when people argue against what the United States government is doing, they're not anti-American. They're not, like, obviously most of them live here and they believe that America is one of, if not the greatest country, and they wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I feel like that describes me. But most of the stuff you hear me saying is going to be anti the American government and the things that we're doing, because we're the most powerful government in the world, and so our actions matter more. And so it's like, yes, you're going to focus your efforts on Israel because they're the one in charge and the one taking action right now. It's like if you have two kids fighting and one of them's your 15-year-old and one of them's your 5-year-old, you're going to stop the 15-year-old. Doesn't matter that the 5-year-old started it or he's the one that that's ruining something. Like, no, you stop your 15-year-old from killing your 5-year-old before you get into, okay, really what's happening.
Exactly. And you know what? I've
But
been thinking about it, not exactly in those terms, but I've been thinking about it the whole time. It's like they're a different category of state right now. Like Palestine
yeah,
is a state that is in rebellion. I mean, against an oppressor. God, it sounds so stupid even
yeah,
using words like that, but that's the way it is. Like, that is just the way it is. And they're at the level now where the best they can do is guerrilla warfare and terrorism. That's exactly what they. This is
yes.
exactly what the Israelis did when they first came to the land. They were like the ones that invented modern terrorism. I
I
sound like a
hate that
fucking
so much when they start talking
crackpot,
about,
but sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
when they start talking about, oh, they're hiding ammunitions behind, with civilians or something like that. It's like, yeah, what do you expect them to do? They can't go toe to toe with the Israeli military. Like that's their only option, and I don't know. I don't think it's their only option. I think there's probably
Right.
more peaceful ways to go about things, but obviously it hasn't been working for 60 years, and it's hard to think, okay, what's the best way to do this when Israel clearly wants to keep them down? Like there's not there's not equal footing when they come to the negotiating table.
You can't say
Doesn't seem to
things
be a
like that in
desire
front
for
of
peace on
him.
either side.
And like, if you were talking to Murray, you wouldn't be able to say they don't have any other option, even though it's true. Like, everyone deep in their bones knows that they're in a bad position. You know, they're not in a good position.
Yeah,
They've seen a lot of bad shit. They've seen their own people getting killed and stuff, and that naturally turns
right.
people into terrorists. So, but just saying that they don't have any other option or any other way of fighting, that you
Yeah.
would automatically have lost the debate against Douglas, because he would
Well,
have been British on you.
I do want to I do want to clarify my position just in case anyone ever actually does listen to this.
Hmm.
I I don't think that they have no other option.
Right.
And it's hard for me to imagine myself in that position, but I still think that I would feel the same way as I do now that violence isn't the answer and I want to believe that I would try to do things without violence. But I can't imagine being in this position where my family members are getting bombed and all of these things are happening. And Dave puts it perfectly every single time. Like, yeah, if, you know, I could easily see myself becoming a terrorist if um, some sort of government or governing body killed any member of my family, especially if they killed all of them. If that's if I'm all that's left, it's like, okay, well, what else am I going to do? I'm not going to choose peace probably at that point in time. So I don't know how every member of Hamas or people being violent in there if they've all had that happen to them, but I could very easily see that. So I see it both ways. I would hope I wouldn't be that way, but I understand why people would be.
Yep. There's a term for it. It's called like insurgent math or something like that. It's like
I'm gonna have to look that up.
for every one terrorist you take out, you're taking out like one or two civilians probably, or even just the terrorist itself, and that breeds,
Yeah,
that doubles and doubles and doubles over and over again.
yeah, man. And I'm recruiting. If I become a terrorist because they killed all my kids or something, it's like for sure I'm gonna say, brothers, what are we doing? Like
Right.
they killed my kids, let's go get them.
Yep.
So, and I think it would be easier to convince anybody who doesn't have a family. I think about that a lot too. Like younger men.
Hmm.
Yeah, let's go get them. What else are you gonna do? Versus if someone tried to convince me, I'd be like, oh man, that sucks that it happened to you, but I can't just leave my family for that.
What are your other options even? Like, your economy is in a vice grip. What does your future even look like?
Right. Yeah.
Can't even get potatoes
Yeah.
because there's like ingredients in potatoes that can help you make bombs or something. There's some chemical stuff. It's crazy.
Well, that's why I feel like it's so incriminating when they talk about Israel intentionally letting or keeping Hamas in power because that's their only other option is to become respectable enough they can come to the negotiating table and have any sort of authority to be respected at that table and negotiate peace. Um, build their way out of it peacefully, and you take away that option, and I feel like it's way more devastating than it sounds.
Hmm. But then all you need is one October 7th, and then it's like you see why we're pinning them down, right? Like, you understand why we
Exactly.
have them in a
Yeah.
cage, right? And that's end of discussion. But no, what no one's taking into account is human nature. no one is taking into account like what does it feel like to be born in this system. You didn't even vote for Hamas, but they're the only ones that have
Yeah.
ever protected you.
Well, that's what's frustrating because they do take it into account. At least the ones I've heard, like Douglas Murray in this
Hmm.
debate, I think even mentioned it, but only for Israel.
Yeah,
What is it like to know that, you're just a couple miles away from people who want to shoot rockets at you? It's like that is the same on both sides.
right.
That's you can't just it's just so one-sided. And then as soon as you are like, well, let's look at it from both sides, like no, you just you're anti-Israel. Like, wait a second, that doesn't you can't lump anti-Israel people and people who just want peace. Can't lump them all together. There's at least three different viewpoints on this.
You can't explain it to them though, good because they're in war mode. They're in like humans have this mode that they have to go into where you just consider them
Yeah,
like subhuman, like your opponents or your enemies. Like that's what they do
that's
in
what's
like Ukraine and
frustrating.
Russia too. Like Ukrainians, I think they call
Yeah,
the Russians orcs or something like that,
yeah.
or maybe it's vice versa. I'm not sure, but sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your point.
No, I was interrupting you. I'm sorry. That I just people like Ben Shapiro. I just feel like it seemed maybe I'm just misremembering. It seemed like he would at least be semi-reasonable on stuff until it came to Israel, and then it's just like
Hmm.
you see what it does to people like him, and it just like it's done that to everybody. It's just very polarizing for anybody who supports Israel. Maybe they just all feel like they're under attack, which I don't know.
I need to find a clip for you. I need to find the clip while it's on my mind because you mentioned Ben Shapiro and
Okay,
Israel. Um,
am I making that up? I mean he used to have reasonable takes
yeah.
back in the day. I didn't always agree with them, but it's like, man, at least this guy seems like he's thinking critically. He's trying to see the situation from as many viewpoints as he can and be reasonable about it.
Who tweeted
Here it is. Can you see it?
Yeah.
I don't remember who tweeted. Someone tweeted something like, "If you're an American patriot, it means you're pro-Israel," or something like that. Yeah. Right. This idea that like it is your patriotic duty to have this particular feeling about another country, no matter what the other country is. I don't care what country it is. So that goes too far on that.
I do think that there is something patriotic about supporting our allies because we form alliances because it's in our national interest to form alliances. And having formed those alliances and
yeah, but you don't have a you don't have a patriotic you do not have a patriotic duty to support any country that is not your own.
But in this case, we just should back Israel.
The edit is disgusting.
Edit is so good.
It's really
so
good,
good,
but it's
man.
also disgusting. And
Oh man,
but yeah, what
this
a
made it
clip.
so much more intense.
They surely edited this Michael Knowles thing here because he's not that crazy. He wouldn't have said it like that in that tone or anything like that. Clearly mixed up, but it's that whole conversation's insane to me. The fact that someone even feels the need to be like up. Like, why would you even have to do
Right.
that? Like, can't you be subtle about it if you're gonna be that way? Why you can't be normal for 2 seconds? Like, no one would think anything if you hadn't have done that or said that. But no, you have to say it. You can't let that message get out. You have. It's your patriotic duty. That's just the way it is.
Man, is there even a patriotic duty? What does that even mean?
Mm. I think there is a duty in the sense that like in the same vein of like Bushido for the samurai or like chivalry for like medieval knights. I think there is like I think you do have a duty to your like brothers and sisters and your community.
No, that's fair.
But
I guess how do you define your country?
right, exactly. That's the point. I think that a normal human doesn't have that feeling for a whole country. I think a lot of it's played up, and a lot of it has to be instilled. A lot of it has to be like a lot of pledge of allegiances, during K through 12
Hmm.
and stuff like that. I think otherwise people would normally form tight bonds to their local community, and I think they would focus more on it too.
Yeah,
If everyone
their
wasn't
town and
thinking
their
about
state.
exactly, if I didn't have to think about I don't have to think about any of this shit. I should stop thinking about all of it. But if I didn't have to think about or rack my brain over like what the government's doing in the Middle East, and Israel
Right.
and all this stuff and just like tariffs and all this other bullshit trying to destroy the economy, and I could just focus on relationships like at a local level in a small town or something, or even just the neighborhood. Like as a kid, I had those kinds of bonds, like friendships and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But as an adult, you feel this sense of like, oh, we're on to bigger and better things now. I'm too big to even vote in the local elections. All I cared about is fucking DC and stuff. But yeah, I think. Sorry, I
I
went on and
like
on, but I get your point.
I like how I heard Tom Woods put it this way before, but he talks about how your life or like your relationships are basically a series of concentric circles. So like you start with yourself, right? That's obviously the most not necessarily most important, but you're most familiar with it, and that's going to be the basis for a lot of your decision making. And then obviously your immediate family and closest friends, and you just build out from there to like the people around you, your neighborhood community, your extended family, and then yeah. Yeah, that would be good. But then it just, yep, that's exactly how I was picturing it. And then if we started focusing on that and instead of trying to divert everyone's focus to like you said DC or stuff like that, it just feels like I feel like the world would be better because you'd be focusing on making the people around you better. It's like when we're arguing with people like, and he says, or Val, and he says like, who's going to take care of the poor?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, your local community easily can take care of the poor. That's
Right.
how it was almost always done. A lot of times through churches, which I feel like if you say that, um, people immediately associate that with religion. But like churches are more than religion. It's just like where the community gets together to bond when they're not working. It's like, oh, you
Mm-hmm.
have a day off, you can do community events. Half the times, like the churches are doing charities and they're doing sporting events. Like it's just a way for everyone to get together and be communal. And one of those ways would be one of the things they would do is help each other. Um, anyway, I just feel like focusing on that in all aspects and raising your children with that focus would solve a lot of these problems.
I think so too, and I think we
Dude,
talked
this
about
is
this
perfect.
offline. This is exactly what you're talking about, right?
Yeah,
I've
dude,
seen this too,
I
but I
didn't even know
hadn't
this
looked into it.
existed.
I wanted to say before we forget, as far as the church thing, me and you talked about this offline about how some traditions are around that we've forgotten the reason for, even though they're important. And I think that
Yeah,
church, even if you're a secular person, church has a purpose, and it's to like congregate local
right.
communities around. And you feel like, oh, we're bigger than like a local area community now. Like we're all thinking globally at this point. But yeah, there's a point to churches, and there's a
Yeah.
point to like
Yeah, I
meeting
hate that
up
though
with your
because you're not
community.
like
Yeah.
going the YMCA for example, just my local YMCA, my kids are like get all their stuff from there. We know the people there. They're practically helping raise our kids, you know?
Mhm.
And I feel like we are very hands-on parents, but most parents are just like if it's not if it's not something like that, then it's your public schools which are getting all their direction from DC. I don't know. Or the state, you know. Either way it's pretty far away versus the more local you can get it. I feel like that would be way better.
Mhm.
I don't even
You,
know if I made a point or just rambled there, but
no, you did. And I think you pull me back into that because I get my head lost thinking way too much about people who don't matter, like way outside of my circle. And when you talk about that kind of thing, I think, yeah, man, I used to have that kind of life too, where I wasn't always concerned about everything going on in the outer edges. Obviously, my values, I think, is more like a conservative on this heat map because I feel like
yeah.
I value the people closer to me more. But
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain things though, like the Israeli thing. You show me enough pictures of all these people dying, and I think I start to kind of form that type of empathy for them too. But that's for
Right.
anything. Like, there's so much stuff going on that I don't care about just because I'm not seeing it every day on my screen, and it sucks, man. But like, that's one of those things where your brain, I can say babies are ugly and dumb looking all I want. As soon as you see like an actual cute baby in person, you're like, okay, babies are cute.
Yeah.
It's like
Yep.
it takes over. But
Even
yeah,
ugly ones are cute. It's like, oh man,
right.
you just gravitate towards them.
I've seen some lately. I'm not even gonna talk about it because it's I don't know. But I've seen some ugly babies lately. Anyways.
Yeah, man. I feel like if you're not like an influencer or a public figure or an official of some sort, you're not even really impacting these too much. You're not persuading that many people. It would be, like you said, better to just not even think about it and just focus local.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think I was telling you. I feel like Tom's show has kind of pivoted that way in the last year or two. He still does some interesting stuff. Like, I say interesting, that's not fair. He still does some like more current events or political stuff or libertarian things here and there, but a lot of it's just how you can focus local and how you can build yourself up, and it's so good. I wish I could just get absorbed into that instead of, let's debate about what's going on in Israel. How am
Right.
I ever going to impact that? And it doesn't impact my life that much, and if it does, there's nothing I can do about it anyway.
Exactly. It's so silly when you think about it.
I could spend that time like making a couple phone calls. If I instead of listening to an hour of podcast, I could make like a plan for the next day, or make like 3 or 4 phone calls and, I don't know, get more jobs or start building another business locally that would just help me, my family, and so many other people. And instead, I'm just, well, listen to that podcast about Israel again, and nothing has changed.
Right. That's why we got to learn more about this stuff so we can use our knowledge for good and not for evil. We got to start persuading
Yeah,
people to focus locally and stuff like that. And I don't know. I want to start with my
exactly.
family. I'm trying to pull my family up to Indiana eventually, hopefully. They're fortunately they're both very receptive to it, and my brother does whatever he wants anyways. So
That's so wild, man. Especially when I think, man, I can't wait to get out of Indiana. So like you coming here to me is just like step one of getting out of here, and then you're like, okay, bring my whole family.
well, you know what I mean. If we're doing stuff,
Yeah,
we're doing stuff. But yeah,
for sure, for sure. Dude, my mom sends me stuff about Alabama weekly at least.
Alabama's
She
nice.
made an offer on some land there.
Oh dang, she
She was
did.
gonna go down and check it out. Yeah, and then they backed out of it before she made the trip.
It seemed like
But
she well anyways, we don't have to get too personal, we can talk about it later, but I think she was she seemed to have some leads on some stuff and she was talking to me about them, but I'm just not in a
you know,
position to do that right now cuz I'm about to start this new thing with you and stuff, so.
neither is she. I'm like, what are you doing? We've got like a plan. Let's work through the plan. The plan is to end up in Alabama or somewhere else, but she's just like trying to skip all the steps. And like, what are you gonna do when you get there? You've got no support system, none of this heat map that we're talking about right now. It's all
Exactly.
you're gonna be a liberal as soon as you move to Alabama. That's how it usually works.
Yeah. It was weird. I went to Alabama from Florida. Like Northwest Florida was a lot more conservative as far as COVID went, and I remember going back to Alabama for a trip to see my dad, and everyone was wearing a mask. I guess it's because it was
So from Florida to Alabama, everybody was wearing a mask.
right, exactly. In Florida, really,
You
people
think it was
didn't.
just the area he lives in,
I
or
think we had like maybe they had a Democrat governor or something. That might have been what it was, and she was actually like on a, or maybe she was a more liberal, Republican or something like that. But I remember them being a little more strict. But God, it's been so long
Alabama
now.
seems like not just Alabama. I think Indiana is kind of this way sometimes, but a lot of I feel like red states are they tend to lean more conservative, but a lot of them still have like that authoritarian like
Bent.
mindset. So like, oh,
Right.
you got to do what we tell you to do. So like, for example, like marijuana being illegal is like, nope, we're not having that, and you can't do it. We're gonna arrest you for it or something.
Mhm.
So I can easily see like, oh, if somebody that was in power was for masks, it would be seem like it'd be real easy to implement that just because you have that mindset of they're in charge.
Isn't it weird how like the left and the right both have almost like their like paladins almost? Like each of them have like their holy knights. For conservatives, it's like the military and stuff like that, and like police and um,
You know,
authority, like having authority figures. But then on the left, it's like um, I don't know what would their figure be really. I guess it would just be it, more so. I guess what I'm saying is they have people that their both of their end goal is get everyone to be the way I want them to be, or like have
you know,
everyone do what I want them to do. They both
exactly.
it's like
Yeah,
they have the same goal. They just wear different skins, kind of. They have, yeah, you know what I mean. Like fundamentally, they're the same. They just maybe were raised with slightly different values, and they're gonna enforce those values on you. So I don't know.
That's what's frustrating. It's like I I feel like if you're libertarian, you just want them to not force their values on each other or everybody else. And that would just solve half of their issues. Like, okay, you could go be conservative and you can go be liberal and who even cares? But then it's yeah,
It
no,
does. It doesn't solve their
100% agree
issue.
with you.
Because their issue fundamentally is everyone's not doing what I want them to do. There's someone out there
Yeah.
doing something that I don't want them to do, or I don't want them to be able to do, or there's someone out there not able to do something that I think they should be able to do. That's all that matters.
Yep.
Their end goal is not like human flourishing, and that's where I think we differ with those people.
I always try to think when you bring that up. I don't know if that's my end goal or not. Just because
Is
it's
it?
hard to define. How would I define that?
Mm, I would say that's vaguely like when we're working towards something. It's like the material end goal, maybe. Maybe not. It may not be like I would just think like if you're able to live and reproduce and you can be comfortable in life, comfortable enough that you can think about things, then that I think spiritually it follows from there. Like philosophically, I think you get better from there. But I think step one, what the government has to do, what its responsibility is to get I'm not even saying the government necessarily has a responsibility. What I mean is the people who kind of frame society. Their responsibility
Yeah.
is essentially to make it as easy as possible for people to do the things that they want to do to live and thrive, I guess. Like
Yeah.
materially, that's what I want done. But like fun, there's more to it than that. You know, there's more to living than that. But
I agree with everything you're saying. I just feel like, okay, now you say that, and I think of another word that I would get hung up on. It's so easy to think about. I always go back to this example when I was thinking about property rights. Like, if you think about where do property rights come from, I just think about, okay, I know I've said this before probably on the show, but either everybody can, let's think of one thing. Let's think of like an apple, right?
mm-hmm.
Who owns this apple? And if you define ownership as like who has the right to make a decision about what can be done with this apple, if you say everybody owns it, now you have to get the collective approval from everybody to decide what to do with this apple. It's not sustainable, right? It's not even you would never be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
If you say nobody owns it, then just by the definition, nobody can use it. So that doesn't really make sense. So then if you say some people own it and some people don't, then you can't really apply that to everybody. It just kind of becomes arbitrary, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to somehow establish an individual ownership. And to me, that's just a logical way to justify property rights. And the reason I bring that up is because it makes sense to me that if you try to define it any other way, everyone is just going to die. And that can't be, obviously, that's not good for human flourishing if everybody dies because nobody could decide to eat that apple.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make any sense?
Oh yeah, I think
What
it
I'm
makes
trying to say?
sense. Yeah.
But I can't use that. So I can use that type of argument to say, okay, well, this doesn't make sense because it's counterproductive or it's against human flourishing. But it's hard for me to say this does make sense because it's pro human flourishing because I don't really know how to define that. I just know that everyone dying is not it, if that makes any sense.
Right.
So once you get past a certain level, it's just hard for me to
You're
think
right.
about.
That's my fundamental assumption is human flourishing is good, and I know what it is. Which both of which are, I mean, one of those things is an opinion, and the other thing is not true. Anyways, or else I'd be flourishing right now if I really knew what it was. But I
Well, I
guess
think you have to
I have some
operate with
idea,
human
but
flourishing being good.
I think you do too. But it's hard to define that because
Exactly.
some
That's my
people would
only thing.
say
Yeah.
human flourishing is everyone mandatory whatever pronouns the person wants you to use. Then that
Exactly.
could be human flourishing for somebody. So yeah, that's the hard
That's
part
that's my problem.
is defining it exactly 100%.
That was a perfect example. And when we were talking about Alabama and Florida, the differences, it made me think of I haven't finished watching it, but the First Amendment audit
Mhm.
that you sent me.
Yeah.
Man, I feel like that first guy the first officer was so reasonable.
Yes.
He just seemed seem very reasonable, and I'm just waiting because the title of the video is like, "This is the worst guy I've ever had to deal with."
Oh yeah, though
Did you get that far into it?
they're so clickbaity. Yeah, I watched the whole thing. I skipped around because I've watched thousands of them, so I just kind of skipped
Yeah.
to the parts where I know they're going to be discussing things. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I didn't have much to say. I
Oh,
appreciate what those guys are doing so much, but when I'm watching the video, I hate them. Like that guy is just causing so many problems for just random people
yeah, I agree.
that, but it's like,
I mean,
I
he's
feel like
not
he's doing a
really
public
either.
service.
He's not like how many. I don't know. If I saw somebody filming in public, I just would not care. I can't even imagine. Like even before I ever watched any of this stuff, I'm still surprised to this day that anyone sees somebody filming and are like, "We gotta get on this case." I just feel like they're kind of. I
Yes.
think that I'm not worried about it because I think that they want to fight and he wants to fight. That's why I'm not worried about it. The people who just stay in their desks and don't say anything and just are like whatever, those are me. That's me.
Yeah.
The people who care enough to call the police on somebody with their phone out and the guy with his phone out specifically looking to stir the pot, those are the people that they can hash it out, and I can enjoy it as an
Yeah.
observer. So yeah, not all of
Yeah.
the First Amendment audit people. I almost called them audits, which they are all audits. But the First Amendment audit people, I don't like see all of them as heroes. I just see them as like they're creating a situation that I'm glad isn't going to turn serious. It's in a controlled environment typically because they know their rights. They're creating a
Exactly.
situation that's going to be a headache for the cop, but it's a good test to see. Are you gonna like slam somebody's head into the ground because they have their phone out and they're being a dick to you? So I know they're dickheads a
Exactly.
lot of the times, and I actually respect some of them. I think some of them actually go into every situation not looking to stir the pot and not like. There's this
Right.
guy named Jeff Gray in Florida. He's like creme de la creme. You can't beat him. He does not go into. He tells the cop straight up, "Hey man, this is the law you'd be breaking. Please man, don't ask me for my ID. I'm telling you right now, I'm not like I'm not." It's perfectly legal to ask for handouts on the street, but I wasn't even doing that. I never asked anybody for money. Like he's like the boss. But the thing is, he'll take arrests,
Yeah.
and then you have to like wait months and months and for like legal updates and stuff. So it's kind of frustrating. But he just takes the arrest straight up. He's like, all right.
Yeah.
But there are some people who just go to stir the pot, and for them, I just look at them as like, okay, you're creating situations for me. I'm at least benefiting because I get to see like how is this cop going to respond.
Well, it's good entertainment, which I appreciate, and I mean, I kind of wish there were more of them because it almost seems like whenever I see a cop who's familiar with what they're doing,
They
like
do a
that
good
first
job.
guy kind of seemed like maybe he had seen a bunch of these or something. He's like, I know this guy's just doing this, and
hmm
like just having that out there, I feel like would make the cops have to check themselves a little bit more regularly or be familiar with it and know that this could happen. And just knowing that this could happen is going to make them know more about it than, half of them don't even know. Like they get caught on the video and they don't even know the law or what they're supposed to be defending or, how to handle these situations. And because of these people, they will. So I really appreciate that they're doing it. But at the same time, like I would understand if Adrian got uncomfortable if someone's filming her and the kids out in public.
Yeah.
And I understand why if I work at a bank and they're training me all the time, like, okay, well, this is what to do in a situation where someone might want to come in and rob you.
hmm
And then you see some guy outside just filming. It's like, okay, well, this isn't normal behavior. This is suspicious. So I
I understand that.
understand
I understand
why
that
they
perspective too.
would feel that way.
Society
And
has
it just kind of
generated
sucks that they get disrupted.
society has generated like a bunch of anxious people too. So it's not even their fault. Like
Yeah,
the whole
exactly.
terrorist scare and stuff like that. It's not all their fault. But some people like the lady who was already in her car and could have just driven away, but she decided to
Right.
stop. People will say like, "I'm in a bad situation. You got to get here quick," but they're like in a car parked where they could have just like left the whole
Yeah.
time. Those are the type of people where I'm like,
Yep.
okay, you're the type that wanted this fight just as much as he did, so you two belong together. That's how I always see it. The people who don't want any
I,
part of it just kind of chill and watch and observe. Maybe even
right.
pay attention, whatever.
Man, I do get that, but I'm just going to give you another parenting example. I feel like sometimes Adrian and I will get into conversations about the kids and like what to expose them to, right?
hmm
And in my mind, it's like I want to expose them to something. If they want to be exposed, I don't want to prohibit that while I'm around because it's not going to be people aren't going to be prohibiting that while I'm not around, and I want to be there when they're first exposed to things
Sure.
as much as I can. And I feel like sometimes she will not want to maybe expose. I'm just going to make up an example, but oh, they're dressed inappropriately in this show. It's like, okay, but we take them to the beach. Like, it doesn't get more inappropriate than that
It's
unless
true.
they're just at a nude beach. And so, and my only point with that is that I understand that not everybody looks at it like you and me would.
Hmm.
And I don't think they're just unreasonable people that are looking for something to stir trouble. I think it's she probably didn't realize, yeah, I post my kids on face. I mean, he called her out. I post my kids on Facebook. It's not private. Anyone can see them. But that's normal. She's used to people doing that, and she's not used to being filmed as she's leaving the bank, and I understand why she has that anxiety. And I don't think he did anything wrong. I just feel bad for the people who are affected by that in that way a little bit.
I think I generalize them too much because I think there are cases like you're describing. And I think that's
Yeah.
probably it's a good amount of them. I'm not I wouldn't give it a percentage, but yeah, I think it's a lot
Yeah.
of them are like that. So that's totally fair. There are some people who have been waiting 20 years for someone to stick a camera in their
Yeah.
face. they're
Exactly. Yeah.
they're so
Yep.
ready.
For sure.
Because we have all these men in our
For sure.
society who have never gotten in a fight, or maybe only once in their life, like me,
Hmm.
who are like they're waiting their whole life for a justifiable reason to get into a fight, even though they look like a fucking idiot, like I would in a fight. But
Have you
anyways,
have you been in a real fight?
just with my brother, the closest thing I ever got was when I moved to Florida. I was in this like computer class. I think it was called web design. I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
And so I was just on my computer, messing around. This was like months into changing schools there,
Yeah.
and this guy kept. He tried to get my attention because the teacher was trying to get my attention, but I had my headphones on. So he
Yeah.
slapped the shit out of my back like 3 times, really hard. It left a red mark on my back until I got home that day. But he thought
Yeah.
it was nothing. But for me, getting open hand slapped on my fucking back 3 times, it hurt.
Yeah.
So I got out of my chair. I put my hand around his collar, and I like snatched him out of his chair and held him right up to my face and said, "Don't you ever touch me again." It was so
Yeah.
like probably if I look back at it, what I said was it probably sounded cringy, but like I said it and I
Yeah.
was like actually mad. I was like fuming. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
You can't even
Anyways,
hardly control if you're not in that situation regularly. You don't know
it's one of those things.
what's
Your
going to come out of
adrenaline's
your mouth.
pumping and you're a kid who's never had adrenaline
Yeah.
before. Yeah. Oh my god. So yeah. Anyways, but yeah, I got high
Yeah.
fives and stuff after that because everybody hated that guy. Anyways, that was like the highlight of my middle school was that
Oh
one
man, that's funny.
instance. Everybody hated that guy. But yeah, that's like the one cool story I have. I never did anything else like that.
That's so funny the way that I picture that story in my mind. Sounds like someone telling a story and nobody believing that really happened because you got high fived at the end.
I did get high
Like that,
fived.
you definitely made that up.
No, we were at the
I believe you.
cafeteria table, and everyone was like, "It's that thing of where like I was so quiet." I don't know if you ever knew me when I was quiet. You've probably known me as a talker probably most of the time, except for maybe in the very beginning of basic training. But yeah, man, I was so
I do
quiet.
think about that sometimes.
Yeah, oh
Like,
yeah,
man, when did I start listening to you, or when did we start hanging out? Because I know you were across the hall from not the hall, but
the aisle.
the aisle, the
Yeah,
row.
it was early on, man, because
But
I was desperate to find anybody on my wavelength at all. Like anybody that was just like, "Oh,
yeah,
you're a normal person who is gonna understand basically everything I'm saying." There were some very autistic people in our flight. Now that I know the word for that, probably didn't even know the word autistic back then. But like, there are some
yeah,
people who were, yeah. But they were mostly cool people. And I'm glad me and you were like, dude, can you imagine if you were on the other side of those things? Those people were freaks to me. Anyone who was on the other
yeah,
side
man.
of that delineation, that was like the enemy base.
That was wild. That was wild.
Me and you were on. Not
Oh
only were we
man,
on the same team, we were like in close proximity. So like we were like, yeah,
yeah. Our side was hilarious too.
man, we had the best
You ever
side.
think about? I can't imagine being in that type of scenario again because when we were there, like I think we were both older, but everyone was still a kid,
Hmm.
and so they're just have that kid energy and they're just clowning the whole time. And I don't know. It seems like that's not something that we would get to experience again.
Yeah,
Not very
it
easily
felt
anyway.
for me. It was like a condensed like high school being social experience in like an 8 week
Right.
period. Because me, I was never social. I mean, I was around my
Yeah.
close friends, but not like around like big groups of people like that was. And I
Right.
feel like I was 20. I was 22. So I was
Yeah.
like on the tail end of still being like a high school kid, basically, or like late college or
Right.
whatever. So that kind of rejuvenated me a
Yeah,
little bit and got me out of my comfort. I wasn't expecting basic
exactly.
training to be that fun.
If we did that like right now at our age, everybody's thinking about their careers and their families and everything. Like, I just feel like nobody would be that invested in just having a good time for a couple months while you're
Yeah,
in this suck together, you know?
yeah. There were some bad
But
times too. The lack of sleep that you didn't have to experience as bad because you never had
why is that?
because you never had like the whatever it was called the sentinel duty or whatever it was called.
Oh, yeah. I had
That
that one time. It was terrible.
oh my god, dude! I had it probably every. I probably had it like twice a week. It was awful.
I feel like, could we trade that? I feel like I traded it a lot.
Yeah,
Or
we
did I
we
just
we
not
were
get
in
it?
charge of the list. Whoever was writing the list just didn't put you down, or I think you traded rolling shirts for doing that, and you helped people.
Oh, I did trade the rolling
And
shirts.
I taught you your
That's crazy
technique,
because
even though
you
you'll
taught me how
deny
to
that.
do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I remember, I remember you. I think you and maybe one other person kind of, yeah. And I think yours is better than mine. I don't know why you didn't trade more.
I just that's why I never started a business, even though I have ideas sometimes. You're the kind of person who you'll think of something and like, why haven't I been doing this
Oh
my whole
man.
life? And then you like go try it. So that's why, yeah. Anyways, that's why I need you on my side because I gotta like start actually doing stuff. I could have
Dude,
I could have had so much better sleep, dude. Oh my god.
dude, that just reminded me. I don't know if we're getting way off topic for the show, but there is we went to a ninja gym
Mm.
the other day. Well, I had been to it a couple times before, but it just reminded me how much fun that type of stuff is, like doing a salmon ladder. Like, imagine how much of a workout you could have just going around being a kid. They had those ramps that you got to run up and try to grab the top.
Mhm.
And I asked them, hey, can we join or whatever? And they're like, no, we don't have like memberships like that, but we can go. Like, they do have some open gyms that we can go check out, and we should definitely do that every once in a while.
Hell yeah. I'm totally
And they
down.
recommended this one. I'm gonna send it to you. I haven't even really looked at it.
I was thinking about doing some kind of like either like a picture log or something of like like a weight loss or something. I think that might be kind of
Yeah,
cool. Like take a picture a week or something.
yeah, yeah. That'd be good
Like going to these gyms and stuff. Maybe make a little video.
for sure.
That sounds awful. If not only I have to go to the gym, but also I have to like think about am I gonna make a cool video today? Nah, I'm gonna keep that shit separate.
No, that's true. Yeah, just a picture would be good. Just do a time lapse or something.
Exactly. Just keep it simple. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yep. The one I just sent you is like a parkour place. It's not as cool as this other one though. They don't have as many cool things. Cause like I don't know. It's basically like Ultimate Ninja, but in a gym, and they have like all the different things you can swing from and do salmon ladders and stuff. This one, I mean, still looks like you go have fun, but I'm gonna send you this other one just so you can compare.
This is like, man, I wish we and you could just go back to where was it again? San Antonio? Is that where Basic was?
Yeah.
I wish we could just go there and run the course. Wasn't that so fun? That was the funnest day, dude. Like
Dude,
getting to run the
how,
obstacle course.
dude, I forgot about that for some reason. Yeah, that was fun.
I wish I could just do that on my
I
own
think
and
about
not have to
that.
wait in line for people. I just run up to the
I
thing and
think
do
about obstacle courses like that, but I blocked that from my memory.
it. That was a fun day. And then me and you got to go back there. Me, you, and somebody else got to go back there and like clean or something for a duty one day. Maybe it was during the holdover flight period, or maybe it was like towards the end. I think it might have been towards the end when they were giving us jobs and stuff, like the last couple weeks.
I don't remember that very well.
No, maybe it was definitely me and you. It had to be. Maybe it was me and two other people. It's crazy you
That'd be
weren't
crazy,
there.
man. We were together like the whole time.
Yeah,
But maybe that started toward the end. In the beginning we were just kind of
we didn't get a choice on this. I remember you just like got assigned with people. So you know what? It probably makes more sense that you weren't there.
yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, this place looks cool.
There's a. Did you see the second one I sent you?
Let me check it out.
That's where we went. They have a gallery there. I might have sent you the wrong link.
Sorry, I was setting up my Discord thing again. Is this UltiFit? Is this the place?
Yeah, but I think I sent you the wrong link for it. Yeah,
Okay.
check this one out. I think this one has a gallery. Just like you can see some photos of what they've got. Yeah, man, like they got the rings you can swing from. But scroll down, I think there's more photos. Yeah, you see all the stuff you can climb on.
Is there like a photo button?
I guess it's just that. I thought there was. Maybe click on adult fitness. What does that give you?
It took me to that thing.
Oh,
UltiFit.
okay.
I'm sure it's in here somewhere.
Gotcha.
About maybe.
It doesn't matter, man. It just has
Oh, our
all
obstacles.
kinds of
This is what I
rings
wanted.
and. Oh yeah, perfect.
I could never find stuff on a screen when someone's in a call with me. It's the same thing at work. Whenever I'm pair programming
Yeah.
with somebody, and they're like, "Look, it's right there. It's right there." Yeah, these look cool. I hope I get to play on it too.
It's fun, man. We should
No,
we should definitely go.
kitty section probably, huh?
They seem super chill. Like we went up there and they're like, "Well, we got a class in like 20 minutes, but you guys can just do whatever." And one guy was like, "Look, we have open gym. It's like $15, but just walk in."
$15 for the day.
Yeah, but it's only like maybe an hour or a couple hours, but he's like, "Man, we're just gonna be here, so you guys, as long as you have a waiver, do whatever you need."
Nice. They don't have a thing. I'm sorry, you might have said this already, but they don't have a thing where you can just like subscribe for $100 a month or something.
That's what I wanted, but I don't think anybody's even like there during the day, so they only have like
I see.
kids classes in the evening. But and then here's another one. This is the last one I'll send you, and then I'll stop. These are just the ones when we were there. They told us, and I don't know if they. This might just be for kids, but I just feel like
I'm just gonna stop the
it shouldn't
recording
be.
anyways. I feel like we've covered most of it. Unless you wanted to get back to it and you had something else.
Yeah, let me look. We were gonna talk about, I feel like a couple other things. Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about feminism. Let's at least bring some of those up.
Okay, we'll focus on that a little bit. I want to be able to
I can
stay
cut
awake.
this out if you want,
Yeah, we can cut this part out, but I want to stay awake.
and we can talk about that later if you. Yeah, for sure.
I don't know why I get tired. You know what? You know why? Because I went to bed at like 2, and then I woke up at 7:30. It's never enough.
Yeah, man.
Let me see. Okay, for these, it's hard. Let me think. Maybe it would be better if we have both watched these, or are these even good conversation topics? If we,
Are they long episodes or just like
they're long,
clips or?
yeah. Well, the Matt Walsh one's not bad. You want to just watch the Matt Walsh one because it's only 20 minutes? We can talk about that. The other one's like
Yeah, man, we
an
just
hour.
skip around. We don't have to watch the whole thing.
Yeah, but I don't know where to skip to it in. Like,
The past
maybe I figured it out.
I mean, just
He kind of just rants. There's not like solid sections. Maybe there are. We could just get into it and skip around,
yeah,
like you're
yeah,
saying.
it's fine.
few weeks, we've spent a considerable amount of time talking about marriage from the perspective of a man. This is a perspective that isn't discussed often enough and is even less understood. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about the concept of emotional labor, which is a term used almost exclusively by women about themselves. The claim, which you'll find in a million articles or hear in a million TikTok videos, is that women carry a disproportionate amount of the emotional and mental burdens of marriage and family life, and I explained why that is a rather severe misconception. This past Friday, we talked about the wildly viral video of a feminist social media influencer who announced to the world that she almost divorced her husband for failing to do household chores when and how she wanted. And I, again, explained it.
Did you send that to me, or did we both just
Hey, you've already seen
see
it?
that?
I don't know if I linked it to you or not. You might have found it in your own.
I've at least seen somebody mention it. Yeah.
But that's crazy to me. Like, I feel like if the main problem I had with it was, I mean, not only is she being, I feel like, unreasonable because he seems like a good guy other than this one thing. You might just have to ride him on it if you want to.
Right.
It's like up to you to pick your own battles, how naggy you want to be and get him to do the right thing. Because there's probably things that you do that probably annoy him too. Well, I'm getting to a tangent, but
Right.
the main thing is you fucking airing my dirty laundry on the internet. Like that's game over. That's if I can get a
Right.
divorce with you, I probably would. Or so, I don't know. That to me, that's like our marriage is sunk at that point. If you're like putting all this dirty laundry on the internet, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, man. I guess.
Just the video in general. Sorry, not my thoughts.
Well, um, what kind of to your thought is, I agree with you 100% unless we just for some reason somehow already have like an agreement that stuff like this is going to be public. That might
Sure.
be because I don't know anything about them, and I know some people like their family life is their online pers not persona, but that's how they're making a living is just exposing, which sounds terrible to me. I don't know why people would do that, but I know they do. So if
Right.
that's the situation, that would be the exception.
Fair.
Otherwise, yeah, I 100% agree with you, and I feel like this is why I don't like a lot of um the dynamic between men and women now, because I feel like Adrian and I, for example, have said for example 12 times, but for example, Adrian and I have I feel like more traditional relationship, right? I work, she stays home with the kids, um, and we homeschool. So I feel like yes, it makes sense that while she's at home with the kids, maintaining the house is part of that responsibility. The
Mhm.
house has to be maintained. It doesn't make sense for that to fall on me while I'm doing other things trying to make money. But then in the evening, right, when we're together, it doesn't make sense that, oh, that's break time for me, but you still have to do all the housework. If that makes sense. Or like on the weekends when we're together, it's like, oh, yep, I get this whole weekend off. You still have to do everything.
Right.
And then at the same time, there's another balance. Like it also, to me, doesn't make sense that, okay, you're going to handle all the meals throughout the week, but then I'm going to pick up a meal or two on the weekends. Like that's not very efficient to me. It's like just plan out one or two extra meals while you're planning the meals. I don't mind making them, but you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is the division of labor that she was explaining to me didn't really make sense, but she didn't go into that detail. So
In the
I
video,
feel
or are
like
you with
some women,
Adrian personally?
in
Okay.
the
Right.
video, that at least if we're talking about the same one.
Yes,
So
I think
I
so.
guess, you know me, I try to look at things from both sides as much as I can. If she's complaining that she's doing all the housework and all the planning for for the household and stuff, it's like, and he's the breadwinner. So yeah, that makes sense. You should be focusing on these tasks at home while he's providing for you. And if
She
he's
makes
not
more than
providing
him.
for you,
That's the
oh, she
something.
does.
Yeah, she makes more. She's the actual, but
Well,
he like goes to work and has a pretty hard. Apparently he's something called linesman, which is like a big deal. It's either like really hard work or dangerous or something. I'm not
hmm
sure.
well, see that's another thing that's where I was getting to was where like modern families, I feel like one, it's more frustrating when you both work and then you don't have anybody to do that.
Hmm.
And I feel like a lot of times it doesn't really make sense for the woman to work unless they just need to.
Right.
It's like I feel like a lot of them are saying, "Hey, instead of me taking care of the house and the kids, etc., I'm going to go work another job. Someone else can raise my kids and someone else can take care of my house." And that's fine if it works for you. I'm not trying to just say there's one way that this should be. I just think it's more natural and often better for there to be that the male is the head of the household, he's the breadwinner, and the woman takes care of the house and the kids. Because I think men and women are better suited for those tasks, if that makes sense.
I think it does, and I think
And
we almost don't even have to watch the video because you almost, I think, are agreeing with Matt. And then his other
okay,
point is basically that we don't have to like trash women who choose to go work, which
hmm
to me would be insane because how would you
yeah,
even like if you're in a bad situation, how do you take care of yourself if you haven't worked or have any experience or
right,
there's things that come up, and I know people are different situations, so it makes sense for some
hmm
women to have experience working, and some
right,
women are just born different. They're just like made for that.
exactly,
So, but he said that we should promote. That should just be like its own thing. It's like the gay thing. It's like that should just be okay. There are people who are like that, whatever. But we should be
yeah,
promote the ideal should be the other way, the way that has worked forever. So I think
100%,
that's the point he's making, and I think you agree with that, and I think I agree with that. Here's my question though. Here's the big
yeah,
thing I have with it is, do you think that, because one of the points that he will make, or Nick Fuentes I think will sometimes make, other people will make, is that because Andrew Wilson will make this point, or Andrew Watson, whatever his name is. I think it's Wilson.
Are you talking about the guy that's like the debater?
The debater, yeah, he did Dave Smith and
Yeah, I
stuff.
think it's Andrew Wilson.
Andrew Wilson, that's who I'm talking about then.
Okay.
His point is that corporations wanted more. It may not have been a conspiracy. It may have just ended up this way, and they were incentivized to do this, and it ended up working out for everybody this way. But basically, what happened was you used to be able to afford, like the average person was able to have a wife stay at home and then afford to take care of it, whatever needed to be taken care of. Like housing was that cheap, you know,
Yeah.
automobiles were that cheap. Your labor was just more valuable back then, so they were able to do that. But then, as soon as women entered the workforce, there was a huge flooding of the labor market, and labor is a good like anything else. And now there's a lot more supply, there's a lot less demand, and that means that it's a lot less expensive to hire somebody to do a job. So once women flooded the workplace, it also flooded the labor market and drove wages down. And now it's almost
Yeah.
impossible for the average person to even dream of having a life like you have. They just wouldn't be able to afford it. Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you think that's inevitable, or do you think there's a way to get around that? Or
I do. Let me just because um I gotta close the loop on my last thought because I
I'm
agree
so
with you
sorry,
100%. That's
dude.
kind of where I was
I
getting.
know I
No,
interrupted you, went on and on. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was going on forever, and I just wanted to clarify. I 100% agree with how you wrapped it up. I think it's okay for women to be in the workplace, etc. If that's what the only thing that I don't like, and this is kind of what you hit on, is that it's almost like they expect it of themselves, and it's looked down upon if a woman just wants to be a housewife and raise the kids. It's almost like that's a bad thing, and I think that's one of the best things that they could do.
Mm-hmm.
Transitioning to kind of what you asked me, man, obviously I never lived in the olden times when supposedly it was easier for that to happen. But I will say this. I think right now is that we all live the best lives we've ever lived in history, and we live better than if you said, hey, would you rather live making $50,000 a year today or 50 years ago? I would still rather make $50,000 a year today because I'm going to be able to do so much more with it. And now maybe my income relative to what it would have been back then is much lower, but it's I'm going to be able to do so much more with it.
The thing you
I mean,
can't
I
do
might
more
not be
with
able to
it
buy as
though,
much milk. Go ahead.
the thing you can't do as much with is like property though. Things like or not property.
Right.
I mean things like land and housing. It's just like
Yeah,
it's skyrocketed way beyond what the income went up to, inflated to, or whatever.
you're absolutely right, and I'm not arguing that that's not the case, but I just think that I think that saying, hey, we have to both work. Like I'm not out here making tons of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing okay.
Right.
And we would be doing okay if we downsized, if we downscaled a lot, we would still be fine. And we have 4 kids, which I feel like would have been average, maybe even below average back in the time we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I get all the points and I don't think they're invalid. I just don't think you can say, well, now I have this excuse to not be this way and the wife has to work because of this. It's like I'm by no means making um tons more money than most people in this situation, and um we can afford to do the things that we want to do. We have all the luxuries in the world. So I don't know. I guess that's my answer is no, I don't. There might have been a conspiracy. I don't know much about that. There might be. I'm sure everything you're saying has affected it, but no,
I don't think it was
I don't think it's
necessarily a
necessary.
conspiracy. I think it benefited them, and
Yeah.
I think that I'm not gonna say that it was corporations that decided to like let women vote and expand to the point where they're like ubiquitous in the workplace, because that's just insane. But I just think
Hmm.
it maybe benefited them. But even thinking even thinking like the housing thing, it's like the housing thing specifically isn't really a lot due to um, a flooding of the labor market.
Right.
It's more of restrictions on zonings and like all
Yeah.
other regulations. There's a lot that goes into that, and also just nefarious people who wouldn't be able to do the things they're doing normally, like buying up land and
Yeah.
stuff in nefarious ways that you know we would have more protection against if the system wasn't set up the way it was. We should go into that one day too, like the whole China and BlackRock buying up land and stuff and making it way too
Hmm.
expensive. We should go into that, but I don't want to get into it now. But yeah, I think you're right. I think you've kind of convinced me a little bit on that. Like there is more. Like you could still get by with that. The rough thing is really just like rent and housing is kind of out of control. It would be hard if you were just an average man making, 40 or 50, $55,000 a year,
Yeah.
taking care. But then if you were matched with a wife who was also making 55,000, problem solved. Send them to public school. You have to pay a little bit for daycare or whatever for a little while, but other than that, it's like
Right.
problem solved. But that's why it's so easy
But
to find couples in that situation. That's yeah, dual income.
I think I would attribute it more if we're talking about, corporations and conspiracies. I think there's not necessarily conspiracy, but I think there's a concerted effort. I think it benefits people in power to keep people working for them versus trying to be more entrepreneurial.
Hmm.
Um, I think also that gets balanced out by people who I who is it that says, is it Tucker Carlson who says like that the best thing a young guy can do is get married and have kids?
It might be him,
Was it Tucker that says
or
that?
Charlie Kirk says that too. It's like, or Ben Shapiro says that
Maybe.
too. It's like these are the things that
Okay.
will give you a prosperous life if you just do these few things. Maybe that's not what you're
Well,
talking about. You're talking more like that's like the best you could do for yourself. Like it's like the goal.
I think a lot of people argue, and Thomas Sowell I know argues that, hey, if you do like these three things, what is it like? Don't have kids out of wedlock or something.
Hmm.
You know,
Finish
get a
high
job
school.
and get married or whatever. Finish. Yeah. If you do these things, you're going to be successful, which I think is good. But I feel like it's Tucker. I've heard him make the argument that you should have kids early because that's going to give you the motivation and the drive that you have to succeed. You can't fail now. You can't just spend your 20s doing nothing. You have a kid you have to provide for. And I think the only reason I bring that up is because I feel like if you have that mindset, there are so many opportunities now. Even though, even if you have, like, for example, we're going to say corporations are trying to either get more women in the workforce and drive the labor rates down, or if they're trying to, um, I think there's a huge incentive for them to hire more people and have more people work for them versus being entrepreneurial and competing with them. That even though you have all of that, I think the counter to that is technology advances way faster than corporations and government can try to keep up and restrain it and control it. And I think there are so many more opportunities today to do whatever you want to do that I feel like that balances out. Does that make any
I
sense?
think it does. You're actually blowing my mind because I never really thought about it in those terms. But like the fact that, I mean, it's kind of one of your sub points really. But the fact that they could be like hiring everybody just because they have the capital to do that and to keep um, incentive to like go compete down. Obviously, like lobbying for higher regulations. We've talked about that in the past, which keeps
Yeah.
people out of your field and stuff like that. So yeah, that's an interesting point. But I
Yeah, I
think
think
you're
it's
right.
the
I think you're correct in general though too.
I think there's some sort of truth to, that you hear the conspiracies about how the nuclear family is like a something that was made up to try to encourage people to just everyone to buy a house, or I don't know, like the what do they say about the fluoride in the water, or something about something in your water or your food or something to lower testosterone.
Right. All the
Um,
hormones in the
like I don't
cows pump you full of estrogen
exactly.
and stuff like that. Yeah.
I don't know which one of those to believe, but I really believe there's something out there that people that are in power do want to kind of control at some level. I don't know where it would be, but I know that there's people out there that make decisions to say these people are going to be easier to control if we just keep them happy, have them go to a 9 to 5 job, keep them entertained at home, keep the cheap and not necessarily healthy but satiating food. Like, yeah, they're not gonna cause any problems if you just keep them happy. Then you can do whatever you want.
It's basically their. It's kind of like they're feeding into the fact that materialism and like the easy our easy access to toys and entertainment has already basically turned us into perpetual children anyways, and they're kind of like
Right.
hastening that along, kind of like keeping us like, oh, we'll take care of your health care, we'll take care of your food stipend. It's like the military,
Yeah.
we'll take care of your housing stipend. You just go over there and play with your computer and your Xbox and your whatever and watch your reality television shows or whatever. Yeah,
Right.
it's crazy because like if you look at me and we look at you, we're like two sides of the coin. Like one person who stayed a perpetual child and one person who had a kid and had 4 kids and had to start getting serious on this. Which is what we
Right.
did.
Right.
Yeah, it's
The
absolutely correct. And I wanted to say this before. I'm sorry, but my brother,
No, 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 please
my
go.
brother and my dad are both good examples of people who like my dad's just like me. I'm like, what is the difference between my
Right.
dad and me? Oh, he had a kid at 21. That's the difference between my dad and me. That's
Yep.
why we didn't turn
Yep.
out the exact same. It's like that. I think I kind of need that in my life too. That's a part of like why I'm moving and
Right.
trying to get myself out of my comfort zone. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Now, I was gonna completely switch gears, but I'm trying to do the carnivore thing, like I told you about.
Right.
And one of the videos I was watching was just talking about how to do it and what you should do. And people were asking like, okay, well, can I drink this or can I put this in my tea? Or it was like, you don't need everything you drink to be sweet. You're not an 8-year-old.
You're
It's like,
right.
dang, yeah. Now I think about that every single time while I'm sitting here drinking a Monster. I'm gonna try to stop, but
Right.
yeah, just
Are
a
you
little.
allowed to have things like red tea with no sugar or like black coffee
When you say red tea, is that the same as black tea?
or black tea? Yep. I'm sorry. I have Hong Cha in my
Hong
head.
cha?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. Well, I think there's debates a little bit about that, and maybe not even debates, but like obviously pure carnivore you're not,
Right.
but it's like okay, it's tea. Is that really gonna cause you problems? I don't really think so, especially like you're brewing it. You're not just eating a tea leaf. So,
We're gonna have to go into the
um,
carnivore thing one day. I don't know if it'll be an episode or not, but we'll have to talk about it because I just don't. Let's don't get into it. I know this is gonna be titillating, but my questions would be things like, why would we be carnivores when we're omnivores? Like we have teeth made for like grinding things up. Like we're supposed to eat
yeah,
berries. We were made to like find berries and pick them with our dexterous hands and all this stuff. It's like I don't know, but
I'm putting that on for next week.
do it, dude. We'll talk about it, man.
Yeah, because I would love to share with you just how my first week went, and then also like kind of some of my logic behind it.
Right. I don't know if I'll ever be able to do it, but I don't really have the discipline for a balanced diet either because that requires a lot of discipline too. And
I, yeah,
yeah, sorry,
I'll just
different
say
kind of
this.
discipline.
Anytime I'm thinking about doing the carnivore diet, I'm like, man, I'm gonna be so malnutritioned or whatever, right? And then I just think about my diet. It's like I basically have the carnivore diet right now, but with sugar and junk food.
Exactly. You're just
It's not
taking your
like I'm going
sides
from a
away.
balanced diet. Yeah. So it's like, okay, well, I don't feel as bad. I don't even like, why am I even worrying about it at this point?
Right. Yeah.
All right. Did you have any, it felt like you pulled up some stuff to start us off with and we never got to it. Did you have some stuff you wanted to show us?
I don't think so. And I feel like we've been
You
talking
don't,
so long that my brain is fried anyways from talking. But so
you don't have any like juicy tweets or anything?
oh well, yeah. Well, what would it be? Like maybe some like oh yeah. One thing I would like to do maybe next time. Maybe I don't know. Maybe get our like segments down more so we don't like. No, you know what? Because that would like lock us in too much. We wouldn't be able to like ramble and like kind of nicely like segue into things. Whatever, never mind.
Yeah.
I was just thinking it would be nice if we had like a time where it's like okay, time to like switch gears into like looking at my bookmarks or whatever. Because like this segment's going to be looking at. Let's see what Tyler's bookmarks look like.
I feel like that's a good way to just kind of end it usually, like lighthearted. We don't have to have a discussion
Oh,
necessarily go on a huge
yeah.
topic.
Good point. Good point.
But I mean, unless you had something more that you wanted to go into. I feel like today was almost perfect. I know we started talking about a little bit more personal stuff at one point, but it's like, man, this was okay. There's a little bit of a started to die down a little bit on this topic. Hey, let's talk about this now. We didn't even get to abortion, which I don't even remember if we talked about talking about that. But oh, there was the Joe Rogan thing.
Mm-hmm. Did I mark
But
that off? I thought I left it on. Yeah.
no, you did. I'm
all,
gonna
all the green ones here, I don't think we've touched on yet, for the most part.
I'm gonna just add the because I feel like those are gonna be short, like quick discussions versus let's dive deep on it.
I want to find more like concentrated clips too, where it's
Yeah.
not just a whole 30-minute video. What I really mean to do most of the time is add timestamps later. Like
Yeah.
next time my goal is to have notes on what I want to talk about, like questions I'll have for the subject or the discussion or points I
Yeah.
want to make on it, and I'll also have like timestamps for any videos that I want to show. It'll be smoother
Exactly.
that way. But yeah, you're right. We'll just transition into like, oh, and now we're in Tyler's bookmark corner at this point. But
As long as we're getting better every week,
yeah,
I don't really care too much. And I feel like this was our best one probably, other than we didn't get a juicy debate. We need Valor to get on here.
I gotta be more professional with it too, and like get more well rested and stuff. That way, by the time it gets to 10 o'clock, I'm not like my eyes aren't drooping down and like falling asleep.
Dude, I'm dying and I'm thinking about getting up at 7 in the morning.
Yeah,
God, 7 is so close.
yeah, man, 100%. So
But then I'm gonna get off here and play Fortnite.
yeah. Okay, well let's
So
hurry up and do this then. That way we can get you off to bed eventually, because we still gotta watch an episode, at least one.
at least one or two.
Okay, exactly, 100%. It's gonna get it's gonna start snowballing here soon, but also want to talk to you about something else. We'll talk about it next time. Mostly like what we want to edit out, like how much of like we start really getting into like it's not even like Easter egg anymore. It's just we're talking inside baseball the whole time, or personal stuff that it gets intermixed.
Right.
It doesn't really belong anywhere. And in the future, I think we'll just get more professional to the point where we probably will do it in ways where we can cut it really easily, or just not do it at all, or do it in ways that kind of can stay in the podcast because it stays relevant and tied. You know, it's like that tied to the whatever we're talking about. But whatever, we can talk about it more.
I wonder. Yeah, let's talk about that at the end.
If you have any thoughts you're gonna forget, don't worry about it. You can interrupt me or let me know if you think about it.
No, we'll talk about that at the end. I do have some thoughts. But
Okay. Okay, I don't even know what I'm showing you here. 400% tariff on Canada coming because this is the mayor of Toronto. Okay, here we go. I'm glad I don't even remember these things anymore because they'll be funny to me too.
Yeah.
There is nothing like a library. You just want to come to a library. Maybe you want to take out the Mein Kampf. Maybe you want to take out the Huckleberry Finn or Catcher in the Rye. Or maybe you're just a homeless person who want to get the internet access to watch a Jewish made pornography. Either way, we are giving $100 million to the library so they can buy the most up-to-date book about Marxism and communism.
I'm glad I watched that again because that was really funny when I first watched it.
Do libraries still serve a purpose? Like, I just feel like people get really up in arms about libraries.
Theo Vaughn has a really good joke
And
about
I like it.
where it's just like, oh, the libraries are just where homeless people go to finger each other. That's what he says. He might be right.
Man, I like my library, and then I was like, wait a second, I'll just buy my own 3D printer. Now I haven't been back there. It's like it's kind of cool, I guess, that they have stuff, but I really don't understand the point.
Okay, let's get into some Nick Fuentes stuff because I feel like you never get to watch him. But this is him talking
Yeah,
about. Do you know
man.
who Jason Whitlock is?
I've heard the name. I'm gonna
All you
pull
need to
him up,
know,
see if
really,
I
yeah, you can pull him up.
recognize him.
He's a conservative black commentator, like political commentator. I think he works on the Blaze with like Glenn Beck and stuff like that. So that's all you
I've
have to know.
definitely seen him.
But
I don't know
this
much
is
about
what
him,
Nick Fuentes has to say about him, and these are the kinds of rants that he has on people. And sometimes he's like, "This is like really crazy." You could tell me if you think this whole thing is like racist or whatever. But Jason Whitlock saw this and had his own segment on it. But this is how Nick Fuentes thinks.
Hold on, was Jason Whitlock upset about it, or was he
About
on
what he
board
had
with
to
it,
say?
or?
Oh no, he's
Yeah.
definitely upset.
Oh, okay.
I feel like maybe it's not good to show you this without any context, but maybe it'll be fun to see what you say without any context.
No, no context. Let's go.
By the way, you are a token. Hey, Jason, you're a token. You are in conservative media as a black guy that can confer upon white people the dignity of not being called a racist for having their views. That's why you get paid. And that's why I don't, because I didn't have the privilege of being born black. I was born white, so there's a limit on what I can say. There's a limit on what I can say without being penalized in the so-called free marketplace of ideas. And everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows. And everybody's sick of it, especially in the conservative space, that blacks have had it easy. It is, and I don't doubt that he's a sincere person. I'm sure he's a sincere person. I'm sure he's genuine. But you are playing by a different set of rules, pal. You have training wheels on. You think you've earned it? Everything you have. Take a look around at your studio, your contract, your employees. If you said the stuff that you said as a white person, your ass would be fucking gone. And everybody knows that. You're on Blaze hosting E. Michael Jones talking about the Jews. It's a good fucking thing you're black, because if you weren't, you would have been fired like Elijah Schaffer. You would have been fired like every other white person. Everybody knows that. Take a good look at everything around you, because you did not compete to get that. You got it because people feel sorry. People don't want to be called racist. They feel sorry. They need a black person to give them credibility. And if you can't see that, then you're just as ignorant as BLM. If you can't see that, if you can't be honest with yourself about that, you're just as ignorant as the marchers. As a matter of fact, you are as ignorant as the marchers. Just another ignorant crybaby. And you know what? I have no hatred. I really don't. I'm a little bit frustrated with the fact that people are going to challenge my credibility based on what I say, knowing what I've sacrificed, what has happened to me, what has happened to my family. And I'm not trying to play the world's smallest violin, but my sacrifice has been considerable. I have had a considerably more difficult go than almost anybody, because I was willing to tell the truth before it's fashionable about Israel, about race, about globalization, about a wide variety of subjects. Ever since I was 18 years old, I have been censored. I have been financially blacklisted, had to endure financial hardship. I've been targeted. My family's been targeted. So for somebody to come and challenge my credibility or whether I'm being honest, it's totally outrageous. I have no hatred in my heart for people. I have no hatred in my heart for anybody, for that matter, and not for a group based on their race. And I have friends from all different races. It's not hatred, you know.
Do you have any thoughts so far? I think this came because Jason Whitlock, is that his name? I think he said something about basically Nick Fuentes being like a Fed or something, or like, because everyone calls him that. Like, that's the way he gets called all the time. So he's like, oh, this is the last straw. You're gonna call me that? Like, I'm gonna call you a token. But how do you feel about it so far?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I see a lot of Trump in him. Just like his mannerisms, like Trump and him do the
hand movements and
I
stuff.
don't know how. It's just not natural for me to even think about doing with the finger up like that.
I feel like he
But
talks
then,
better than Trump too. Like his cadence and stuff like that. I wish I could do that. But like the things he's
Yeah.
saying are like,
Well, and his hair. I can't figure out what's going on.
I think he just has like Zoomer hair that like goes over the front type deal. It almost looks
Yeah,
like a
it might
weird
be
thing
a
like
just-
Trump, where you can't tell which way it's going.
Exactly. That's what's getting me. Those two things. But more to the content of what he's saying. I mean, I would like to get to know more Nick Fuentes stuff, because I have almost no knowledge of him other than two things. Is one, I think he was on Dave Smith's show and he got a lot of pushback on just having him on the show,
Mm-hmm.
and he always had reasonable responses when people complained about that. And then two, I've never heard him say anything that I thought was just completely outrageous. but I don't listen to him that much, so it's not like I have a good sample size.
I should find some
With
really
this right
funny
here,
videos of him that would
yeah,
because
that'd
he's
be great.
funny. Like he's like Trump in that he can be like mean and like he's saying blacks like which normal people hear that and they like recoil because it sounds horrible and like harsh. But like
Yeah,
he just says whatever he thinks, which is crazy. And some of the stuff he says is like ignorant, but a lot of times he's like kidding and stuff too. He's got like a really dark, like Sam Hyde-ish sense of humor where he can say things that are like half true, half sarcastic. So you never really know how he
yeah.
feels about it. So I don't know, but yeah, without a lot of context, and I'm realizing more and more now how this video was not a great one because of how much background there is. But I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's yeah.
Well, no, I feel like I agree with, without knowing Jason Whitlock, I agree with the points that he's making. Um, just because that I think that there is that. Um, and I could just give you an example. Adrian was very like one of the first things we really got into debating was the war on drugs. And she grew up in a, you know, a typical like Chris, Midwest Christian home, very anti-drug, and yep, we got to be tough on it. Can't allow it. Let's don't even talk about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when we first started debating, and you know me, I'm just saying, well, I think they should all be legalized. That was like shocking, but we went through all the debates, and she was willing to have the discussion, and it was like I feel like she was very reasonable, and then we by the end we agreed, and it took a couple years for her to think that way, but it was like naturally, but it was a reasonable conversation. Later we start talking about racial issues, especially you know, within the last 5 years, or when Black Lives Matter was going crazy, and it was much less reasonable because it was a very emotional conversation for her. And the pushback I would always get is, well, you know, you're white, you can't understand this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I never felt like that was very fair because one, I think you can relate to things even if you haven't experienced them, because nobody can experience what someone else is experiencing, right? We're all just relating an experience we've had and making an analogy basically to what they've experienced, and we're just doing that at to different degrees of separation.
Right.
And so I try to make that point to her, and it never would land. But then what helped a lot was I don't know if you know who Glenn Lowry is, but I think he's an economist. I think he's a professor. I forget where. And he has a podcast called The Glenn Show. And he would just look at things, I feel like, way more objectively. Instead of just saying everything's based on race, he would say, okay, well, this doesn't even make sense. Let's not attribute this to race if there are other more reasonable explanations.
Mm.
And then he'd have on John McWhorter, who's more, I think he's more of a maybe a journalist or just an author. He writes a lot, and John McWhorter, I think, naturally thinks of things in terms of race, and then Glenn would challenge him on it. Usually, this is just a pattern I saw, and then John would accept that challenge and kind of do his own research, and then like the next episode or whatever, I remember one specific example. I'm getting long-winded. I apologize,
No, you're fine.
but one specific example is um, Glenn challenged him to um, that the media isn't reporting on cops shooting white people.
Mm.
And John just basically said, no, they're absolutely, it's just not happening. If, of course, they would report on it, it's just not happening to the degree that it's happening to black people. And then, like the next episode, John's like, hey, I apologize. I went and researched this, and it's happening at least as often to white people in almost the exact same ways. And then he wrote a column for, I think, Time. I'll try to find it and send it to you just because it's interesting, but where he just lists out a white person getting killed in almost the exact same way as a black person. He lists like maybe 10 examples.
Right.
And the reason I'm bringing that up is because having two black people talk about that, and Adrian and I could listen to it, and they're making the same points I was making, probably better because they're pretty good at their professions. But having that was very helpful. And so saying, okay, well, this calling Jason a token, I feel like the way he's phrasing it as a negative thing, and I don't think it's negative. I think he's probably right, but I think yeah, that is helpful to people to know that you have people that are on your side who, if you care about people looking like you or you think that's important, well, this is your target demographic. That's why he's on there and he helps with that, and it's not a bad thing. It's the same thing as like Dave Smith referencing like the CIA when he was talking with Douglas Murray. It's not like, oh, well, Dave agrees with him, but having those people who other people would recognize as an authority figure for whatever reason, they agree with what you're saying is just an added support to it. It helps your credibility a little bit. And so there's a benefit to that. And I think, last thing I'll say, and I'll shut up, I think that how you look is always helpful or harmful. It does play a factor. And it's not always fair to everybody, right? Some people are born and they look better than others, and they're going to have better opportunities. Some people are taller and they're going to have other opportunities. That does play a role, and you can't fault people for that. But I do agree with Nick, like, just accept it. It's not a negative thing, but it is part of the reality. And I guess I don't see an argument here. I don't think there's a reason to be offended, but I also feel like Nick might be coming across a little bit strong, like almost like he's attacking him for this. Even though he kind of says he's not, so maybe not. So
I think he is attacking him. He's just attacking him because he was attacked as well, being called like
Right.
a Fed or, um, um, what's it called? Basically, like someone who's like on the other side but stirring shit. Like that's his purpose. So
he's
he
like
gets called
attacking
that.
him, but saying he's not attacking him, kind of. If that makes any sense.
Like Jason Whitlock
Because
is.
he's saying like he's not saying, Jason, you're a token and that's a bad thing,
Right. He's just
but
explaining the
he's saying,
situation.
hey, you're a token and you should feel bad because you came at me, and so now I'm coming back at you.
Yeah.
So it's kind of attacking him without attacking him, if that makes sense.
And I think in another video he could have attacked him just to attack him. It just in this particular instance he happened to, I think, have been attacked first. But I don't think he would have done it out of pure malice. I think he would have done it because at this point they have bad blood.
Yeah.
But I think that you mentioned some things in your talk, and I didn't want to like interrupt you or anything. But I think you mentioned some stuff where you would definitely have a disagreement with Nick, and I think that if Nick was a little more calm, I don't know if he would. Or a little more, not calm's not the right word, but if he had thought from your perspective a little bit more, I think that it would be a good thing for him. But I think he would also make him lose probably his edge and his entire persona and kind of like his audience capture. I guess it's one of those.
What do you
things
think
where
we would disagree with?
I think I'm glad you forced me to get to the point because I was going to ramble on and on. But
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead.
no. I'm glad you said that. What you would disagree with, I think, is that he would say. I think he would say that there is something. He phrases it poorly because I don't think this is what he argues to support, but I think he says there's something to like race as far as there's a reason why it's generally black people who are involved in violent crime at higher rates than they exist in the population. Like the whole 13% of the population commit 50% of the violent crime or 60% of the violent crime, whatever the number is. Like I think that he says it in a way because I think that he's like such a dissident, such like a at this point he feels like no one else is sticking up for like white people, even though I don't know, that's kind of cringy to talk about it that way. It kind of puts you in like the victim mentality or whatever, but I think that because that's the way people look at white people are kind of the only people who can't have an ethnic like state or any of that whatever. They can't have an identity, they can't have white power, that's evil or whatever, which it sounds horrible to even say, but I think he that puts him in the frame where he's like, yeah, no, it does have to do with race. It's not like, oh, black people are disproportionately poor, therefore they commit more crime. It's because there's something about like either black culture or black people in general that have a higher. Because he perfectly admits like one of his people that he loves is Kanye. Like it's one of his favorite guys, like in the whole world. Probably his number 2 favorite guy besides whoever, maybe Trump or somebody.
He is great.
And he even hates Trump for a lot of reasons. I think he respects him, but he hates him because of his opinions on Israel and stuff like that. But anyways, back to the point. I guess I think you would disagree with him because I think he does generalize. I think he's at the point where he feels like he's fighting a war against other races because he feels attacked. What he's grew up in this generation where it's kind of like, white is kind of like the worst thing you could be, except for it's not, because white people still, I feel like, are not. It's not terrible to be white, but it's you're an easy punching bag. So and if you don't, I don't know. If you take that stuff seriously like he does, I think he takes the threat of people kind of hating on white people and that being the trend. I think he takes that threat seriously, and he thinks like,
Yeah.
yeah, the Jews know what they're doing. They're like, they kind of have like a group identity and they help defend each other, and he feels like he has to be that for white people. So I'm psychoanalyzing him, and I know that's super gay. I hate that. I hate when people like sit there and try to guess what people are thinking instead of just asking them. But
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, I think you would differ in that he would say, yeah, there's something about like we have to separate. Like I think his goal would be for everyone to have their own place. There could be like a few people who have proven their self to be like of the same mindset as like this culture or that culture, and so you'll have here or there, you'll have black people in white countries or white people in black countries here or there, but generally I would think that he would want to like separate everybody. I think you would go in the opposite direction probably, or like maximum amount
Say
of
that
freedom.
last part again.
His goal would be to have people separated, like by group
Okay.
identity. I think he would want. I think his primary thing is to have a Christian country. So he's definitely like a theocrat. He definitely wants like
Okay.
America to be like a country of Christians, and there would obviously be people who weren't, but it would be like primarily right. But also I think by race to some degree. I think he thinks for the most part it'd be better if we had ethno states. So I think he kind of like goes in the other direction as you. Even though he sees the same shit going on in the world, I think his solution is different than yours.
What do you think? What is my solution?
I would think your solution is more so like people. We should just let people decide on their own who groups with who.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Which is untried as well. To be fair, like we don't really do that. We kind of like
Yeah.
have all these crazy incentives to mix people together and stuff like that. So
I think, and this is kind of a statement and a question, and I want to hear your thoughts on what I'm about to say. But I feel like culture is very important, and I feel like a lot of times we mix race and culture, and it makes me think of Thomas Sowell, where he talks a lot about the culture that we would attribute a lot to black people and hip hop culture and Southern culture, all kind of originates from. I think he points out someplace in the UK
right,
somewhere,
Northern UK. Yep.
and so
Northern Britain.
it to me, when I hear people talking about race, that's kind of what I think they mean is, okay, we're really talking about culture here, and if we're talking about culture, I think I agree. I think that's a combination of poverty, and culture, and I mean our government, and I think combination of those three things are probably the biggest factors to why we see black people killing each other or killing other people at higher rates or being in poverty at higher rates, is because of all of those things. They just kind of feed into each other. And then between that statement and my next question is, have, have you seen the exhibit about white culture that was at the Smithsonian?
No, but we talked about it a couple weeks ago with Val.
Yeah, they had one about white people that was like white culture, and it had different things, and one of them is like rugged individualism. One of them is like the family structure, the scientific method. It's like that one was funny to me, like the scientific method is white.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, but the reason I bring that up is I was trying to think, what is white culture? And do you ever listen to Tom Segura?
Occasionally.
He had one joke about how um how much a word can affect somebody and hurt them. And he was given a couple different, obviously the N word and a couple other words. And then he was like, you can't do that for white people because it just doesn't offend them. And I was just wondering to myself, is that because white people are just in power? Or is there like, I couldn't even describe what white culture is. It just seems like it doesn't really exist. There's not like just a white culture, but maybe that's just because that's my culture, so I see that as default. You know what I mean?
That's part of it, and also
Or is
white
it just
culture.
because
It's been. I mean, you couldn't tell me like the average person couldn't tell me like what European country they're from because we're just an amalgamation. So I think the culture was more distinct, and now it's like kind of a blob. And then also, yeah, to your point, like we're in it, we're in the middle of it. You don't see your own culture as easily. But I think we also lost a
well,
lot of it in the blob. Sorry, go ahead.
well, I think that, and then I was going to ask you, what do you think about when I saw the Smithsonian things say, oh, rugged individualism.
Hmm.
I do feel like a lot of, especially um, conservative white people would be more focused on the individual.
I agree. I think
And
that's part of
so,
white culture. Yeah.
and the reason that I bring that up is because if we were going to break things down into to race, I don't know, that wouldn't make sense to me. So then I was thinking, okay, well maybe, just let people culturally go wherever they go. And then I just think, okay, well, where are white people going to go? You don't just have like communities of just white people among other ethnic groups. It's like, no, you have this giant community of white people with pockets of ethnic groups.
Mm.
So it'd be hard for me to imagine what a white culture would be like.
Right. I think
I don't
white.
know what I would
I think
expect.
I think white culture is what we are in. I think you're right. I think it's subtle. I think we just don't see it. But I think
Yeah.
maybe it's a more American culture. But American culture is really just an amalgamation of other cultures. But just like our structure of law, like our way of dress, like the way Nick Fuentes
Yeah.
is dressed here, it's like. I mean, you don't think of it like that anymore because it's like ubiquitous in the world. Like you could go to Japan and find somebody like dressed like him, but that's just because of how far spread our culture is. Really, it's like it's everywhere. Like we don't even notice it anymore because like American culture and white culture in general is just everywhere. We kind of like took
Yeah, but
over.
like
The,
when
oh,
I see, go
sorry.
ahead.
I was gonna say I don't know why I got so focused on that one thing, like the way of dress, but the other thing is things like the way our system of law works. Like
Hmm.
oh god, what is the term I'm thinking? It's almost like common sense in the realm of law. What is it called again? Like because it was done that way before, we do it that way still now.
Precedent.
Precedent, like things like that. I don't
Hmm.
know. There's a lot to white culture that we don't think about because it's just everywhere now.
Right.
But go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's fair. I just think it's also like if if something happens to anybody who's black, you get so many black people banding together around that just based on race.
Mm.
And I don't see that happening. It would be weird to me, and it is weird to me when I hear Nick bring
That's
it
what
up.
he's doing. Exactly. That's what he's
Yeah.
doing.
It's weird to me. It's like I don't even care. Like I don't need you to defend me for being white. I don't need you to take up my position for that. Let's talk about what, maybe the right position would be just for people in general. And I don't need race to have something to do with it. Maybe is that just because my default setting is, hey, it's all white anyway, or is that because I have more of a focus on the individual because that's, I don't want to say my culture, but just that's my focus is more individual based, and I don't really, because I don't like when it's brought up as race at all. It's like I don't care what race you are, I don't care what culture you are.
But that's
I only care
that's part of
about
being
what
white.
makes sense and we can apply to it. Yeah,
Even like we're the only ones that do
it's
that.
so circular. Yeah,
We're the only ones that are like, why do we care about race and all this? But everyone else is like, oh no, Japan cares about race, China cares about race, Russia cares about race. You know, like people
do
in
they care about
Africa.
race or do they care about their culture?
I think some of it's race. It's in China, like Han Chinese, like that's the thing. I think there's something to race for like these
That's
people
crazy.
in their head. But like white people, I'm the same as you. Like unless I really think about it deeply and think like, okay, maybe this is a conversation worth having in my head or hearing people talk about. By default, I'm
Hmm.
like, this is not even worth talking about. Like everyone's just an individual. But then sometimes these people think you're thinking of like your you I think you and I have tapped into something that is very natural and simple and fundamental about property rights and freedom of movement and just like getting out of
Yeah,
people's ways and stuff. I think we've tapped into that, but I think other people don't see it as a practical solution, and they're looking at,
yeah,
okay, we got to fight fire with fire because white people are now only like 60% of America, and what does it look like when we're 40%? Like once our culture's like completely kind of like on the side and we're not really white people aren't
yeah.
really, is it going to be the same thing? Because it's not like everybody's as colorblind as white people are now. It's not like that's spread to people. That seems to be the one thing that we keep kind of to ourselves. It's like the whole like everyone can just be an individual because everyone else just gangs up into their groups. And I feel like if
Let me ask you this.
that's why he feels
Go
like
ahead.
he has to
Sorry.
do that. Sorry, go ahead.
I feel like if culturally, it makes sense to me that Japan would want to keep their culture Japanese, right?
Hmm.
And I would want to keep American culture American. So when we start talking about like immigration, for example, I don't want to be overrun with immigrants from another culture, and now my culture, I don't recognize it anymore, right?
Hmm.
Like that would even be the case if, you know, uh, a bunch of Hispanics, for example, came in and started just moving in around my neighborhood. I don't have any problem with any Hispanics, but I don't want, like, I would want the cookouts to be what I'm used to, I'm comfortable with, and not necessarily just be surrounded by Mexican culture all
People
of a
who might
sudden.
not even be able to speak your language necessarily, and it kind of makes you feel a
Exactly.
little more isolated when it gets to a point.
But then how is that different than I just am getting older and there's a younger generation who has their own culture? And I'm naturally getting phased out anyway
Hmm.
by another generation of culture that I'm not going to be able to recognize.
But I think,
Does that make
yeah,
any sense?
I
Like,
think
I'm not
I
going to
think
be able to
that
speak their language.
I think it makes sense. But I think that Nick is in that, so maybe that's why he cares a lot about it, because he is like a young person in that situation. And then
Yeah.
also, I think other people care about it because they think, well, I want my kids to enjoy the same environment that I did, at least as close as they
Hmm.
can to it, considering obviously advancements in technology and stuff like that. It's not gonna be the same, but I think
Yeah.
that, yeah, people think about it that way, and I think that it's, I can logically think about it. I'm just smart enough that I can pull myself aside and be like, okay, there is a natural way to achieve, I think, what both Nick wants, and also without having to like force people into it. I think that people of like minds, and I think that race is probably to some degree, like, I can't imagine that, like, all the things about us, about like different races, I can't imagine there's nothing to the fact that we're not slightly different in some way, even in thought process, fundamentally, because like we could be smarter or dumber on average, we can be taller or
Yeah.
shorter on average, we can have more or less nutrition. I don't care what the cause is. I'm just saying, like, there's something slightly different about the way like big groups of people think. Like, there's something slightly different about the way that Chinese people think, because they feel more at
Right.
home, I think, when they have a dictator. Honestly, like, we can go more into that. That's a whole thing. I know I made a huge broad statement, but I just feel like
Yeah. That
Chinese
was nice.
people, they're not the exact same as us as a whole. And I think you're right. I think a lot of it is culture and stuff, but I think that what Nick sees is, like, how do you practically maneuver in the world the way it is today, where kind of um, the more you band together with your in group, the more power you have. I think he sees that most groups have it that way, and I would think that even if you explained it to him and he perfectly understood how we would envision the future with less and less government, and
Yeah.
people being able to congregate with people they mesh with ideologically, and even if you wanted to get into your own racial fucking community, that would be perfectly acceptable. But I don't think he sees
Yeah.
that as a valid solution in the near term, especially as a young, hot-blooded, person with some charisma and a
Hmm.
following. Like, that's not the route he's gonna go. I'm not just sitting here defending him. I'm just psychoanalyzing him like an asshole. But I'm trying to think, like, why is he the way that he is when he's a smart person? You could, like, when he talks, and like if I ever show you more videos of him, the reason
Hmm.
why I hate the fact that he comes to a different conclusion than us about certain authoritarian questions of authoritarianism and its use in society and
Yeah.
stuff is because he's such a smart guy in other ways. Like, I can show you videos where he just, like, he's genuinely, like, I think that Dave Smith is someone who put the work in and if has talked enough and that he's able to do it. I think Nick
Yeah.
is someone who was born with it. So it
Yeah.
frustrates me that someone who's that smart and that right on 80% of things can't get the final 20%. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, let me, before we wrap up, I
Mhm.
want to clarify something.
Yep.
I use a terrible example because, we obviously work with a lot of Hispanic people, and dude, I would love it if they lived closer because they have cookouts every weekend. All the food is always fire,
I took
and
that as
I
just an
would love to
example.
be
I just
there
want to say
all the time.
I
It
didn't,
was an example.
because I was thinking, like, Mexican cookout sounds way better than like whatever was
Yeah.
probably previously there. So yeah,
Well, I
I think it's
mean,
just an
the thing is that
example.
previously there is nothing. Everyone
Right.
sticks to their own. It's like, I might go with some family, and maybe that's what they're doing, but their family is like everybody that's ever been associated with their family, and my family is like, my brothers and sisters might show up. We're gonna have a few people. So, but last question, just so I have a better understanding.
Yeah.
Does he want like complete separation of cultures, like maybe like white people have their own state or something, or is he saying like just don't have forced integration, or like what level is he going to?
I think it depends, and I don't I think I'd have to watch more of him to give you an answer on that. I don't even want to speak for him
Okay.
because if I ever like posted this to Twitter or something like underneath a comment to him, I would love if he would reply to it. I want to be as good faith as possible and not guess his or assume his thoughts as much as possible, and just be fair.
I
So
just have never heard anything unreasonable from him, as I said before, and
I'll
I still
find some
haven't. I think
examples.
everything he said was reasonable.
Yeah,
Of something unreasonable?
I'll try to find something that I think that you would think is unreasonable, because I think
Yeah,
a lot
that'd
of
be
his
great.
I think a lot of his things are unreasonable if he had the knowledge that I have. I just have empathy
Yeah.
for him because I could see myself getting sucked into the things that he sucked in. I'm not saying he's like in some cult or whatever. I think he's being
Yeah.
rational. I think he's talking about things. I think he's just not afraid to say things. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying like I'm noticing differences between me and these people. It makes me angry when these people who are not like me do these things
Yeah.
to my people. I think that's all human. Like it's perfectly fine. It's probably more healthy to just talk about it and be normal about it instead of having this kind of fake colorblind. I hate the colorblind thing. It's just so fake. Everyone sees colors. Everyone sees differences. So like no one's
Right.
colorblind. We all see it. I think it's fine to have people like him that are young and angry and right about some things and maybe being a little bit too hot blooded on some things. So that's my opinion of him.
Yeah.
But I can't. Yeah, I can't answer your question because I'm not 100% sure. But I'm glad you think he's
Well,
reasonable to some degree because that means I could show
yeah.
you more of him where you might you might have some cool opinions on things he has to say instead of dismissing him outright.
I just appreciate people who are going to think critically about a topic and try to look at things from different perspectives and not just like with the Douglas Murray thing. That was so frustrating. He was only looking at things one way. He would not even try to grasp things from a different perspective or really any perspective. He wasn't sharing anything. It was super frustrating. And I just want to add, and then I'll be done if you want to just cut it here, but to colorblindness, it's to me, I feel like you have to take that what you said so extreme, like you do see color, but you see more than color. Like you see every individual and they look different.
Mm-hmm. It's very
And my kids
poetic.
just started screaming.
I heard that.
But like you see everybody way different. And so since you see everybody at an individual level, it's almost like the extreme opposite of color blindness that you see everybody as an individual, which is like the same thing. Yeah, their color is part of what makes them them. But if you just don't treat them as, hey, I'm seeing you just as a black person or just as a white person and don't stop there, then it doesn't matter.
Right. But he even does that though, because like he idolizes Kanye. So
Yeah, exactly.
I think he even understands your point fundamentally. It's just like he's in a lot of the times when he's making videos, he's in like attack mode because it's like you. I almost said you kind of have to be, but that's just because I empathize with him so much and I see his point of view, and that's my natural lean
Yeah.
too. It's like God, we're being attacked on. Everyone hates white people. I hate that. I hate when everybody hates Floridians. I hate when everyone loves Floridians too. I think like I'm a contrarian. I don't know. I hate like the majority opinion, and the majority opinion is like, oh, white people are so privileged and stuff. I just feel like, man, I just feel like that way of thinking is so. It just doesn't lead to anything. There's nothing positive that
Right.
can come out of that thinking that about anybody. It's just a not it's the same as what Douglas Murray did. It's like you're categorizing people right off the bat into expert, non-expert, blah, wherever you fit in there, just so you can like have an easier time dealing with it instead of having to listen to each word carefully that Dave Smith's saying and
Yeah,
respond to it. Like your first thing you do is categorize people so that your work is now half complete.
exactly. Yeah.
But I wanted to
And I
finish.
think that's useful
Yeah.
for like a day-to-day, like quick decision making. It's terrible for debate, long-form discussions, policy making.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, yeah, play something else.
No. I was gonna stop with something funny. I'm still listening to what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I'm done. I just was ending on that point, and please play something funny.
Okay. I don't know if you've ever seen this arrest video of this guy. So I was gonna show you the original, and then I want to show you the reproduction that I saw yesterday, or the reenactment. It's really funny.
Okay.
Have you ever seen
All
this?
right.
This is just some guy getting
Who is
arrested.
this?
I think he's famous.
Okay.
But anyways, he has the funniest arrest ever.
Doesn't look familiar.
Look, I'm under what? Gentlemen, this is Democracy Manifest. Have a look at the headlock here. See that chap over there? Get your hand off my penis! This is the bloke who got me on the penis before. What is the charge? Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal? Oh, that's a nice headlock, sir. Oh, yes. I see that you know your judo well. And you, sir, are you waiting to receive my limp penis? I was half intoxicated and
This is the guy.
I somewhat enjoyed it.
Oh, man. Wasn't that funny, though? And I love the fact that he said judo. It made me think of you the other day when I watched this again.
Yeah.
But,
Dude, I got thrown so many times by this guy who's probably like 160 pounds.
Mm.
He threw me so easily. It was just effortless. And I'm so sore.
pounds.
Dude, yeah, he was so, like, I only know that because I'm throwing this big guy who's probably a little heavier than me, and it's like, I can do it, but I feel the weight of him, and I'm throwing this guy, and it was just easy during the practices. And then we actually sparred, and I'm like, okay, well, I can throw this guy easy. Every time I tried, he just had me going the opposite way. He just knew which way I was going and made me go that way so effortlessly.
That's judo for you. Anyways, this
I thought that was a fake voice until I heard him in the interview afterwards, and he sounds just like him.
No, it's real, and he sounds like Sean Connery or somebody. That's why. Yeah. That's what I always think when I hear that. But they're probably from the same part of the world. But this
He's like he's giving a
reenactment's funny.
speech in a movie while he's getting arrested.
Yeah.
I'm under what? Gentlemen, this is Democracy Manifest. Look, have a look at the headlock here. See that chap there? Get your hands off my penis! That's the gentleman who got me on the penis before. Why did you do this to me? For what reason? What is the charge? Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal? Ah, nice headlock, sir. Ah, yes. I see you know your judo well. Good one. And you, sir, are you waiting to receive my limp penis? How dare you? Get your hand!
He got the inflections down. I wouldn't have saved this
perfect.
otherwise if it wasn't so perfect. I mean, he was slightly off in some places, but like basically 99%. Yeah, literally this 99.9%.
I don't know why it's even. Why is it funnier? Like the other thing literally happened, but this was just making me laugh even more.
It's just funny how like they got it so perfect. And the succulent
Yeah,
Chinese
it's
meal,
wild.
man. I forgot to mention that last time. That line is so funny to me. I've never thought of a Chinese meal as being succulent,
Oh yeah.
but it's so funny. Maybe they are.
What was he even being arrested for? I have to know.
I don't know. I don't think they even say it here. Yeah, it's over. You'll have to go Google it. But yeah, anyways, it's funny. All right, guys, we're signing off. We've talked enough. We're gonna have to edit the shit out of this to make it even watchable. But next time we'll do better. But yeah, you got anything to say before we sign off?
Nope.
All
Good
right.
talking to you.
All right, get the fuck out of here then. Later.